Where the people at? Where the people at? What up? 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 Happy Friday. Happy De La Soul Day. March 3rd now is gonna be De La Soul Day. What up with you, Coop? How you doing, bro?
Cigars for Dayla.
Man,
Little
yes.
victory lap for Dayla today.
People don't know how long hip hop fans have been waiting for De La to
Dayla
be
making a
on
little paper
streaming
today too,
platforms.
Mike. They haven't been on streaming platforms or even had access to this level of money or this format. So even though it might be like pennies rolling into dollars, it's money they haven't had access to. So
I
make
hope
sure
it's
you
very lucrative, man. And the celebration that they had last night, I think it was where was it at? I think it was at Webster Hall up top. Dave Chappelle was there. They were counting down at midnight or whatnot. It was a beautiful thing, man. It was a beautiful thing to see. And I hate that Dave's not here to take in that love, but it's just a beautiful thing to see, man. Prince Paul getting his shout outs and all of that stuff. Did you hear what May said about Prince Paul?
haven't seen or heard anything, so plug me in.
Yeah, Mace was like,
Plug talk.
he was thanking Prince Paul, and he said, you taught me everything, and you made me a legend." Paraphrasing this, you made me a hip hop legend. So I love the fact that we've said this on this show before. I love the fact that De La has always stayed together, and even when they parted ways with Prince Paul, from a I guess full out production standpoint, it wasn't like a fallout. They were cool. I was listening to Stakes is High. Prince Paul got a shout out. You know what I'm
You should
saying?
be.
And go ahead.
Said you should be listening to Stakes is High.
Stakes is High is dope, man.
So should everybody else.
I'm gonna give some takeaways I had from really going back and listening to the catalog, because I know a lot of folks would say, well, the physical albums were always available. Yes, but this is the thing, man, and I just kind of realized this with De La. I'm a fan of De La. I love De La's music, right? But they were slightly before my era. The era of De La I grew up in was Stakes is High
Stakes is High.
De La,
Correct.
right? So
Mhm.
when I saw that video on Rap City, I mean, I had heard Me, Myself, and I and all of that, and I had heard Buddy and stuff like that. But the group that I identified with was the one that was on Stakes is High and It's So Easy and all of that. So the previous albums, the previous three, they were ahead, they were before my time. And back in the CD era, I don't know about you, Coop, but we were buying stuff that was current to us. It wasn't a lot of going back saying, you know what, let me go buy Let the Rhythm Hit 'Em.
I guess that is what I do have to thank Napster and LimeWire for, is because
Mm-hmm.
they allowed me to do my first real hip hop digs, Mike.
Right.
So even when Stakes is High was coming out, I'm not sure if Napster and LimeWire were quite a thing yet in
Mm-mm.
'96. So it was probably about '98 before I started doing the De La and Rakim digs. A lot of it was just kind of word of mouth stuff. Or if you were lucky enough to be like at one of your friend's house that
Right.
had like an older brother
Yep.
that had the tape or the CD, and then you kind of got a hold of it that way. Like
Yep.
Mike, I only know about Tribe Called Quest because my cousin, because of Six, he was 4 years older than me. He was in the house fucking singing Benita Applebaum and Can I Kick It all the time. They used,
Yep.
I remember a story I was telling you about how they used to all know the words when they was riding together. I was just too young to ride.
I mean, that's the same thing with Tribe. Like, I remember Award Tour, and it's funny, man. Dove has the part on the Award Tour, like the hook, you know what I mean? And I remember Award Tour being that Tribe song that was really ringing, like as a single, and it was that you heard everywhere. But the
I,
Tribe that I really identified with, once again, it was Beats, Rhymes, and Life. So all the other stuff I had to go back for. And people who are slightly older than us are the reason why we did go back for it. But even in that, we weren't going back in the 90s if you weren't part of that, earlier era. You're not going to go to the store and say, I got to go buy Low End Theory today. You know what I mean? Maybe some people were, but there was so much stuff that we
mm,
missed. You know what I mean?
I think the low end theory is a bad example, Mike, because I actually did go do that about the low end
What
theory.
year did you
Actually,
go
the
buy
low
the
end
Low
theory was
End
like
Theory?
that. So
What year did you go buy the Low End Theory?
it was somewhere between 95 and 97. Yeah.
Okay. Because I know my boy Nate, man, we were actually in a group together. he would go back and buy Tribe stuff specifically. Now, I do remember that. I think he went back and got Midnight Marauders.
Like, yeah, that was around the time I did the digs. Like I went and got Paid in Full. I went and got my own copy of The Greatest Adventures of Slick Rick.
Yeah.
Um,
Now that was one people went back for.
yeah, so I did stuff like that, but I do get what you're saying as far as like the acquainted nature of things and when you get acquainted.
But you
Go
know
ahead.
why that happened though? As far as the Great Adventures, when Slick Rick came out and he was doing all these appearances with current artists that we knew, it was like, yeah, I got to go back and listen to this whole album because we had all heard Children's Story.
See, but this is what I mean about being fortunate again. Six's brother, who was 8 years older, biggest Slick Rick fan ever, so I can remember Slick Rick from sitting in my car because he used to play that shit too. You know what I mean?
Right. But with that all being said, this is streaming platforms have really helped a lot of people catch up. And a lot of people who are watching this show right now who are in different age ranges. So the fact that De La has been kind of locked out of this whole streaming platform institution for this long, they have, unfortunately, there have been generations of fans that they would have that have missed out on this great music. And hopefully, I mean, obviously it's not too late. Better late than never. I just hate it's taking this long, and I think this is a great thing. I hope it was just worth their while altogether. You know what I mean? Hold on one second. Hello? Because I had to take it to the mechanic. Remember? Yeah. No, it's all good. Yeah, I'm on live right now. All right. Wondering why I took the dog's car seat out of the car because I had to take it to Audi. Anyway, JY with the super chat says, about to go on De La run on Spotify after this show. RIP True Goy. Cop the floor tickets for the Woo and Nas show in Sydney. My favorite MC and group. What a treat, man. Shout out to Sydney. Australia's in the building. Mad Max with the super chat says, shout out to De La Soul before my time, but they made good music from the stuff I heard today. But Jermaine Cole did it again and might give Nicki an apology. Jeez, did I check out the Nicki? I didn't check out the Nicki record. Did you check out the Nicki record?
It's been a busy day, Mike.
It has been a busy day. There's a lot of really good music out there, and he's right. Dreamville did an incredible job. I do want to get into this De La dig real quick before we start moving on to that new music that's out there.
Hold on, everybody. Yeah. Click like and subscribe on our page. Make sure you're clicking like and subscribe. Make sure you click like and subscribe on all things we do. Click and like and subscribe on my Mirror Music channel. We're going up this year, not down. Appreciate y'all's help and support. Victory Cigars for plug 1 and 2. Let's go, Mike. De La dig. How's you work?
De La dig. I wanted to listen to the albums today, the first 4 specifically, right? Just to kind of revisit them and really, I don't want to say rank, but just see the growth in a group that was very ahead of the curve when it came to creativity, right? And what I kind of got from my first dig, and I'm going to be listening all weekend, was the fact that the first album, even though it was ahead of its time, it still sounded like somewhat of the times, which was good for it because it still needed to identify with what was going on in hip-hop, right? But that's the album with all the hits. But it comes across with a lot of quirkiness. You see the genius in it, but they were able to deliver those hits at the same time. I think I told you offline, People's Instinctive reminds me a lot of 3 Feet High and Rising, you know, in a lot of aspects. But I still think De La Soul is Dead is their best piece of work. I think they elevated the creativity, and I think that they, you know, doubled down on what they were doing before, but they started to really find themselves as MCs. You really hear Prince Paul's influence on the first 2 albums, especially all the skits and the way everything came together. And I'm listening to how the skits and songs come together. It really put me in the mind of To Pimp a Butterfly, honestly. For a current generation, it might, want to find ways to identify with it based on what they hear. It was very theatrical. I'll put it that way.
You talking about De La Soul is Dead?
Yeah, yeah. I think that, when you talk
Okay.
about the skits and all of that stuff, that
Yeah.
they're funny, but they line up with the records. It's telling a story. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like,
Hmm.
the Prince Paul produced albums tell a story.
Well, that's his thing. That's the Prince Paul influence,
It
is the
is.
conceptualization.
I mean, you even see it with Prince Among Thieves.
Mhm.
Prince Paul's always telling stories, which is an amazing thing. Which is it's odd. I don't want to say it's odd, but it's interesting the fact that him and Kendrick haven't hooked up for a project yet because, I mean, you have a storyteller and a production storyteller. But what I got from the Stakes is High is the fact that De La was growing, but they also were kind of reinventing themselves in the '96 era as MCs. And when they moved away from the Prince Paul total produced albums, you started to hear some of the best bar work that they've ever put down. Like Pasta Noose on the song Stakes is High itself.
Oh, he's crazy on there.
Heavy. Yeah.
He's crazy on there.
And again, that was
Crazy.
my first real memory of that group. So I remember when I would see that video, I'm like, yo, Plug One is snapping.
I'll, R.I.P. to Plug Two. I always thought Plug One was the better of the plugs, just personally.
Well, I think Pasta is probably the best lyricist in the whole crew. And that's counting Tribe. And, I'm a Q-Tip guy.
Yeah, you talking just native tongues?
Yeah, he's
Lyrically
the best
speaking?
MC in native
Yeah,
tongue,
he's
in
the
my
most. Yeah, he's like as far as like pound for pound.
opinion.
Yeah. I would agree with you on that. Do you mind if I piggyback off of some of
No,
your
go
things?
ahead. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to make sure that you got all of your thoughts.
I was just going to get to the super chats and that
No,
whole
do the
group
super chats and
conversation.
then I'll piggyback. That's
Okay,
cool.
007 with the super chat says Shay Noir gave her best Benny the Butcher impersonation, but the album should have dropped in the wintertime. Is has the it has the egged feel. It has that egged feel, not that headed into the spring/summer feel. She got bars though. Sound like you feel like it's more of a winter album. I can see that. I think most of her stuff feels cold like that. JY with the super chat says, what y'all think about Tribe's 2016 album? I liked it. It's very impressive.
I concur.
Yeah, We the People was crazy, production-wise. 36 Chambers, go ahead.
It's a nice little Andre verse on there.
It's forgettable.
I
30,
like it.
36 Chambers with the super chat says, I didn't hear 3 Feet High and Rising until my junior year in high school in the late 2000s. Formative years for music, and it elevated my love for hip hop. Much love to them for finally hitting streaming. Definitely. Now, what were you going to say? My bad.
Is that the super chats? Oh, I think a couple things happened with Stakes is how I'm kind of going to work in reverse of that first 4 that we got that I think people kind of like consider to be core De La. Like, there's I know there's artificial intelligence and all that other stuff that came after, but let's look at that core 4 that they started off with. I think, why Stakes is High is their best bar work also too, is because, Prince Paul's not in the fray. And that conceptually took something away, but that was actually good for them because they were in a place in their careers, and I believe in their lives, that his MCs, Stakes is High is the album that is littered with the most real life and real world concepts.
Mm-hmm.
And so conceptually, what you see that they may lose in terms of innovation on the first 3 albums, they make up for literally with beats, rhymes, and life, pun intended, because their 4th album is so far superior to Tribe's 4th album, Beats, Rhymes, and Life. Like Stakes is High is like...
Oh, yeah. And you know, it's interesting when you lose an excellent producer like a Prince Paul, who I think is the most underrated producer in hip hop, and you do your first album ever without him. they pick some great production. Usually, and I know this might not be the best example because they did 3 albums with Prince Paul, where Snoop only did one with Dre. But you hear the drop off from Doggy Style to the Dogfather. And those things are, when you're working with a great producer and then you're no longer working with them, it might take you some time to recover. And Snoop recovered. But yeah, De La was able to just jump right over, like, yo, got Dilla over here. Who else produced on that album?
We should look that up right quick.
I want to look that up right quick.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Dilla gives him a 5-piece, right? It's a little 5-piece from Dilla?
Uh-huh.
Little 5-piece.
I mean, the other takeaway that I had from listening to De La today was the fact that they were truly a group. And in hip-hop, we normally have groups where you have standout individuals in the group and everybody's like, okay, can't wait till this person does some things on their own. Or even if you have a group like a Bone Thugs and Harmony, everybody has their favorite member of the group. I felt like De La was literally like a band in that way, where everything they did spent off of each other. And even with the first 3 albums, you might hear Prince Paul jump on the mic. You know what I mean?
Well, you see, that's what I mean. When you're working within the confines or the parameters, and I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way, because these are like, safe spaces. You know what I'm saying? But when you work in those confines and parameters of always pushing the boundaries, like as far as your creativity, as far as your innovation, as far as your conception, well, Mike, a couple things can happen. One, the MCs can get lost in the shuffle. Mm-hmm. And reason number 2 is why they get lost in the shuffle. You can miss out on a lot of dope-ass rhymes from a really dope MC in the process of doing something conceptually.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like, when we talk about Nas's best verses, well, we don't talk about Rewind now, do we? You understand what I'm saying? Because while that's conceptually brilliant and story-wise masterful, well, lyrically speaking, we talk about like verbal intercourse. Right. You know what I'm saying? And I gave you power and take it in blood. In your case, silent murder. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so, there is a difference and a separation, and that's what makes Stakes is High so important. Now, here's what I'll tell you. It's like, well, I can't front. I lean towards the bars, and I usually lean towards the shit that I could ride to. So that would be De La's first album and their 4th album. I'm not as big on De La Soul I'm Dead as Balloon Mind State as you are. I would probably go 3 Feet High, Stakes is High, De La Soul is Dead, Balloon Mind State. That would probably be my order. But also, like I was telling somebody, I was telling somebody on Twitter, I think it might have been Unk. And I was like, I haven't like listened to their albums in so long, in like a relative time span close together.
Mm-hmm.
To like even really make that call to you clearly today. I need to sit down on all 4 of them and then let it sit for a little bit. Because quite frankly, the last time I listened to like all 4 of those De La albums, like within a week or even like a month's time, like I was probably in my late 20s.
It's very dense, and and I'm gonna have to listen with my current ears. As of now, I would say my thoughts of De La Soul is Dead at number 1. My number 2. It's hard to deny the bangers that are on the first one. So it has to be number 2. It's kind of like Control for Janet, right? Like, you could tell she got better, but the fact that there's so many bangers on Control, you can't deny that. So I'm going to go 3 Feet High and Rise in 2. I'm going to go Stakes is High 3 and Balloon Mind State 4. And Balloon Mind State, in my opinion, is an excellent 4 to 4.5 mic album.
So let me ask you something real quick. Hold on.
I was just going to say, De La Soul produced Stakes is High, the album, with the exception of the song Stakes is High. And Spearhead X did one, and OG did one, but they did the rest of it.
Okay. Balloon Mind State or Beats, Rhymes, and Life?
Balloon Mind State.
Balloon Mind State or Stankonia?
I got to be fair with Stankonia because Stankonia has some great stuff on it. So I'm going to say Stankonia.
You think so?
I think so. I think Bombs Over Baghdad, Spaghetti Junction, So Fresh, So Clean, Red Velvet. Yeah, those push it over the edge. Stankonia is actually an excellent album. It's just such an unorthodox album from act that we're used to hearing
See,
everything in such chronological order, you know?
see, excellent.
I think if it weren't Outkast, if we take it out of Outkast's catalog and we give Stankonia to T.I. or something, yeah, I think
You give it
so.
to anybody? No, 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 no. We're not doing that.
You know
We're
what
not
I'm
doing that.
saying? Like
No, I get what you're saying.
if we take Stankonia out of Outkast, right, and we give it to Clips or something, like Stankonia is actually a pretty great album, and I think that we measure Stankonia based on what they have done.
Okay, so you want to know
It
what?
has
Just real quick.
flaws now. Now I'm not saying that.
So where would you place Stankonia, let's say, in Tribe's catalog?
Huh. Definitely number 4 off the top of my head.
In De La's catalog.
5 off the top of my head.
So how excellent
Well,
is it?
actually, yeah.
It'd probably be
Because I
fourth.
think it's
It'd
no. I
probably
would
be
say
fourth
4.
there
My
too.
bad. 4 again because I do think it's. I need to go back and listen to Balloon
So when
Mind State again,
comparing
but I
the
do think it's
album,
better.
so even when placing this album in their contemporaries catalog, it would place probably where it places in their catalog, which is fourth. Mike,
Which is
in
fourth.
Mobb Deep's catalog, where would Stankonia place to you?
And whose catalog? Mobb
Mobb
Deep.
Deep.
Man, we just got a refresher on Mobb Deep's whole
You
catalog.
think like I'm essentially
I
asking
would
you, do
say
you think Stankonia is better than Murder Music?
I
Because if not,
do.
it would fall fourth.
I think Stankonia is better than Murder Music.
I would tell you it might be a draw.
Yeah, I mean
And
it's
so I tell
close, but
you,
I think Stankonia is better than Murder Music. I would like to
so
do a poll on that or something. Shout out to
run
Michael
that.
Sanders with the $20 super chat. He says, "What are you guys' thoughts on the Rome Streets album? Enjoyed it. He never disappoints. He guarantees to deliver a solid album. What say you about the Rome Streets album? You and I spoke about it briefly when we were offline.
I want to finish with a couple of Daylight
Okay, go
comments,
ahead.
and then we can slide into the Rome. And if you have
Okay,
something to piggyback off my Daylight comments, please feel free to.
go ahead.
Well, on a day like today, I can realize, well, they're the author of like very, very many kids, and they don't get their notoriety or their recognition for it
Right.
because, quite frankly, music hasn't been available in today's modern format for people to access and to appreciate, quite frankly. But you can look at more directly within their crew. You can look at a Tribe Called Quest. Well, you can look at Common. You can look at The Roots. You can look at Outkast. You can even look at Kanye, Mike. Most Def and Talib Kweli.
Yeah,
All of these people who were lauded and applauded more than them, direct offshoots.
you're right.
And all the way down to Kanye, because I realized that, like, when people call Kanye so brilliant, they talk about his what? His innovation, his creativity, his concepts. Isn't that De La?
I think De La, as creative
Some
as
suburban
they
kids from
were.
Long Island, right? Kind of like a suburban kid from Chicago. You get the
No,
correlation
you're right.
with regular,
You know
everyday
who always
concepts.
gets tagged with I guess the being the catalyst for that movement is Q-Tip. And I remember seeing Q-Tip on TV like when I was younger when rappers looked like rappers. He looked like a regular college kid. You know what I'm saying? Like
Rappers look
when
like rappers.
rappers
Like my
kind of
shit.
had like rapper type uniforms or whatever, like, and you think of the boss, like, and not the boss like Rick Ross, but the rapper boss, like the big shades and all that. I think Aaliyah kind of took on Boss's style a little bit, but anyway, when you think of what rappers look like or whatever, Q-Tip kind of becomes that guy who was like the regular guy, and I think that De La set the foundation for him to be able to do those things and kind of get that credit. You know what I'm saying?
So right, so Kanye is the one that really gets the credit for letting like the everyday person into the game, but that's really not fair. It's really De La.
Oh yeah, they're
We
regular
just haven't
guys.
had listen. We just haven't had the songs available to today's generation to really provide the evidence to say so.
It's
And so that
amazing,
was the
right?
main evidence. And I haven't been through everything, but the main evidence that I had today was like, well, they're really in a lot of ways Kanye before Kanye.
Yeah. Creatively, they were just ahead of the curve. Like,
Exactly.
I think everybody in their era were creative in their own way. Like everybody in the early 90s, late 80s, they were kind of doing their own thing, and you would get shamed for going out there doing something that other people did. Shit, even when What's the name of that group? Set Adrift on Memory Bliss. You know, what group I'm talking about.
Who?
They made Set Adrift of Memory Bliss. Anyway, it'll come to me in a second. I'm sure the people in the chat will say it. But yeah, they got dogged out for being a fake De La Soul.
PM Dawn.
PM Dawn, yes. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? And so it wasn't cool to go out there and do what somebody else was doing. So everybody was somewhat creative. I think that when it comes to that creativity, De La was just on a whole nother plane. And maybe to some degree, they could have been too creative for the massive audience where it was just over people's heads.
Well, here's what I would submit to you with that, and that's what I mean is that, well, Mike, the album that rides the most is the first album when they're young and having fun, and the fourth album when Prince Paul is gone. That's what I'm saying. Like all that conception is like it's great art. It's not as memorable as oftentimes because people don't play it as oftentimes.
You don't think that De La Soul is Dead has the most memorable bangers from them? Because I think that Saturday and Ring Ring are some big ones.
Maybe Ring Ring,
Yeah.
but is that better
But
than
even when
Buddy?
I listen to Ring Ring, I feel like, wow, this song really jumps out at you in the midst of this whole conceptual album. You know what I mean? Cam Porter with the super chat says, majority of Stakes is High is self-produced. Yes, thank you. They were
My
fortunate that
neighbor.
Prince Paul wanted their input in the production process in the first three albums because he wasn't listening to as young. He wasn't listened to as a youngin in Stetsasonic. Yeah, that's true.
This dude wild, Mike. He's out here blowing his leaves out of his driveway
Uh
right after it rained because some leaves blew into the driveway. This is my neighbor.
huh. Raising Yoda with the super chat says, as rappers like yourselves, where does one get inspiration to write lyrics? If you lose inspiration, is that when you hear that drop off, retirement from artists? That's an interesting question.
You know?
And Nas says something like this. What interview was that? Oh, yeah, it was the interview that he was on the Late Show. A lot of the times, your inspiration comes from your peers and what's around. And when you're younger, you're listening to records that make you want to rap. You're listening to beats that make you want to rap. Like I remember even when I was feeling like shit was whack in hip hop, and I'm gonna date myself on this. This is like in the 2000s, and I heard Wayne rapping on that Cannon beat. That made me want to rap. You know what I'm saying? That made me be like, you know what? I like that. It's a competitive fervor, and then on top of that, you have your real life stories and things like that. But I think when people get that level of writer's block, I think they're just not inspired by the music anymore. That's why what Nas just did is so, it's so groundbreaking because where's this inspiration coming from? I know he
No,
said it's coming from Hip Boy, but yeah.
well, I think that the way inspiration works, it works on a few levels. I think, you're speaking to something that Nas recently said. I'm going to speak to something that Lauryn Hill actually said a long time ago when people were asking her about, why she hadn't made music. And she was like, well, it's not that I haven't made music. She's like, she just hadn't been inspired. She was like, you have to understand. And this is what she said. For years, it was, from the studio to the tour bus. And then you get off the tour bus and it's to the hotel. And then to the radio station and to the studio.
Yeah.
She was like, when you're creating art, you actually have to live life
Yeah.
to be inspired. And when you put people into the matrix, essentially, and people like her that thrive off of inspiration, the same way I think Nas thrives off inspiration, well, now you can see why these people are reclusive.
That's why everybody's first album is so different than their second. Your first album, like you said, you're actually living life while you're writing it. Your second
Well, it's not
album,
even that. Well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, your second album, if you're successful enough, where your first album had you touring, doing radio, this, that, and the third, your second album, damn near a lot of the times, is about being famous and the things that have come since
Well,
that, you know?
what I was gonna say to try to finish my thought is that that's really just the first fold.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Is that actual living of life. Now it becomes, and listen to what I'm saying. Usually, who you are early is who you will be late. And so, what you're finding is that the people who we were calling and claiming genius early, well, they're that late because when you put them in different environments, in different formats, well, Cream's going to rise to the top. That's why you have Nas in this position. Well, what position was he in walking into the game? Well, people thought walking into the game that he was going to be the best MC that ever lived. Well, look at what just happened. What you thought was going to happen is actually what was supposed to happen because like the talent was there. It's
Right.
all about how you deal with the game. It's all about how you deal with the inspiration. And now you can, and this is what I was about to try to say. Well, this is where you can see why he's reclusive, why she's reclusive, why, well, and her breaks have obviously been more notorious and gap laden than his. But no, he's taking breaks. You know what I'm saying? Like he's always recorded, but he's taking breaks from releasing material because, and I guarantee you this, he probably felt some of what Lauren felt in that article that it's like, well, I'm making the music, you know, but is it like there? Is it what it needs to be for me to put it out? Lauren just holds herself probably to a higher standard than most because, like she was even saying in the interview, which I think is like over 2 decades old right now, Mike, she's like, no, I made music after the miseducation. Y'all just ain't heard it. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
Well, could Kendrick be going through some of those things, to be fair?
We just gave him 5 years, Mike.
I'm just saying, though. I mean, everything you just said could be applied to Kendrick.
Okay, so this is what I mean about how Cream really rises to the top. Nas took 5 years off. We got Nasir. Now, finding out how Nasir got made, I'm not blaming Kanye. I'm just going to let everybody else blame Kanye since they blame Kanye for everything else. Why don't you actually blame Kanye for something he actually did wrong? Nasir. But pretty much since Nasir, Mike, we got Lost Tapes 2, which was pretty much a contractual obligation. And then when he pretty much got rolling back after, like, I don't know, a year of being active again, we literally got classic, legendary caliber material. So when I was saying Kendrick needs to do another album and soon, I was kind of speaking to the fact that it's like, well, maybe the problem is that you haven't been active. Well, get active.
Well, all right. This is what I'm going to say about Nasir. And I know people are probably thinking I'm caping for Kanye or whatever. Is it fair to say that something like Nasir could have been a warm up? Because it's not a bad album at all. You know what I'm saying? And
It ain't this shit him and
it's
Hit just did.
it's not. But I don't think it was supposed to be. It's 7 songs. You know what I'm saying? Like
Magic 9 songs.
Magic is 9 songs. But again, that's a rhythm. You know what I mean? Like it's different when you're warming up and then you actually catch rhythm. And I think that for maybe the thoughts that I think again, when you pull somebody in like Kanye West, as it should be, their level of expectations. They can't go out there and just make, Kanye and Nas can't just go out there and make a warm up album. It's got to be the greatest thing that we've heard. It's got to be memorable. And like you said, it was
listen
rushed.
to who you're, Mike. All respectfully, like listen to who we're talking about. You're damn right. It's supposed to be great. Is he a top 5 producer all time?
Yeah.
Is he a top 5 MC all time?
Yeah.
Well, end of the discussion.
But again, that's on paper though, Coop. You know what I'm saying? It's like we're also got to factor in everything that was going on that summer. Daytona was just made. It was beats just flying around. That would be totally different. It's kind of like what Method Man. It's kind of like what Method Man talks about with Takao, and the difference between that and the and Only Built for Cuban Links. The fact that they had to kind of rush that, they had to go through that flood situation. But on the Only Built for Cuban Links, they was chilling when they put that together, and they had time to put that together. It wasn't rushed. They took their time with it, and everybody did their thing, and that's what you saw the results of. Now, again, that's not to admonish any type of blame. It's to try to put, what happened in context. And I think based on the circumstances, Nasir's not a bad album at all.
I don't think it's bad.
Underwhelming. But it's underwhelming because of the circumstances.
Underwhelming only because of the names attached.
That's that on paper stuff. Like, we're seeing that right now in LA with, Kawhi, Paul George, and Russell Westbrook. Like, that looks great on paper.
It's not great on paper. I keep trying.
Oh, God.
I keep trying to tell y'all that what Kevin Durant did in Oklahoma City, take a look at it now and tell me how great he is all time.
You don't
Because
like Westbrook or Kyrie.
I don't like team killers. No, excuse me for not liking team killers. I'm sorry, I don't like team killers.
Allegedly. Frank Wizard with the super chat.
Mike, what your eyes tell you when you are watching something happen is what's going on.
Let me get to the super chats real quick.
Do a rundown of both of their respective careers without Kevin Durant. Because at least Kyrie,
Russell Wilson.
In fairness to Kyrie, at least he won with LeBron.
Well, Russell Westbrook actually has a league MVP without KD on his team. That happened.
May not even deserve that MVP though, Mike. His team was the 6th seed.
Frank Wizard with the super chat says,
6th seed MVP.
Y'all rate any of Frank Wizard with the super chat says, y'all rate any of the 2 tracks today Cole was on the Streets and Adonis interlude. We're gonna talk about that Dreamville Creed 3 soundtrack. Thought it was dope, by the way. 36 Chambers with the super chat says, Method Man's verse on Rome Streets, P's and Q's was incredible. Yeah, it was. He seems to maintain, or dare I say, get lyrically better in age. Method Man's not slowing down.
Hold on, a couple things. First of all, I'd like to say, since we're on the Method Man super chat, that Tikal has held up remarkably well, Mike.
Happy birthday to Method Man too, by the way.
What?
His birthday was like 2 days ago.
Okay. He's one of those too. My pops and my stepfather's birthday are literally coming up today and the day after.
Yeah, man.
Shout out to my stepfather and my father. What up?
What up? But yeah, man. But, happy belated.
But Mike, to Method Man right quick, and to Tikal, like, Tikal's not bad. Tikal's really dope, Mike. Like, Biscuits is dope. Bring the Pain is amazing. Release Yourself is fire. Mr. Sandman is fire. Method Man Remix, fire. Meth vs. Chef, epic. Like, it's not that there's anything wrong with Tikal, Mike. It's the fact that right after Tikal is literally the greatest. Like it's the album that's lost in the shuffle of the greatest run of rap music we've ever seen. Like, not just from a collective, but period, Mike. Like, look at the lineup: Enter the Wu-Tang, Tikal, Return to the 36 Chambers, Only Built for Cuban Links, Iron Man, Wu-Tang Forever. Tikal's problem is the other
you
6
skipped
albums.
Liquid Swords.
Oh, I'm sorry, Liquid Swords. Of course, how could I forget Liquid Swords? Mike, the problem is not Tikal. The problem is that the other 6 albums are classics.
But that's what I'm saying. That's why I compare it to this Nasir, to this KD Magic.
It's better than Nasir, Mike. There's not some Nasir shit going on. Ain't no Bring the Pain or Release Yourself or Biscuits on Nasir.
Again, I'm not comparing the 2 albums. I'm comparing the circumstances. I think that we look at Nasir in that way because of what we got right after it. Same thing with Tikal. We look at Tikal in that way because of what we got right after.
Like, if Tikal came out right now, Mike, we'd be arguing about if we should give it a 5.
Raising Yoda with the super chat says, how do you like the and the Anonymous Nobody? I liked it. I thought it was dope, man. And having 2 Chainz on there. Yeah, 2 Chainz and De La is a dope.
Like, think about this, Mike. Tikal got a 4. Like, it might actually be a 4.5 in retrospect when you really listen to it. It's not. I'm not bugging like that, Mike. What's wrong with Tikal?
Have you heard Liquid Swords, Only Built for Cuban Links, and
that's what I'm saying. With the problem. Okay, so let me say this to you differently. Okay, so when naming probably the 50 greatest rap albums of all time, Mike, you do understand every other album from that collective that got made within that camp probably falls in that realm. Now, do you think that's fair to Tikal?
I think when you're considered at the time to be the best member of the group, and it's produced by the same person who produced those other things, I do think that's somewhat fair. Now, what I will say though, let me finish that. Let me finish that because I don't want to be a hypocrite. What I will say, though, the circumstances is what makes it different. Just like what I said about Nasir. Now, if we factor in the fact that Method Man was being pulled a million different ways, they went through a flood, they lost a whole bunch of songs, they had to rush this thing, yeah, it's not gonna sound like Only Built for Cuban Links or Liquid Swords into the or Return to the 36 because it was rushed. I feel like both Takal and Nasir were rushed in relation to the other albums that we're comparing them to.
No, but this is what I'm saying, and this is how you need to look at Takal in retrospect. And ask yourself this legitimately. What are those other albums that are literally top 50 rap albums out of this collective without Method Man on them?
No, that's real. I'm not saying anything about him.
Let me finish, Mike. No, I'll let you talk. Let me finish.
I agree with you.
No, but that's why you need to look at Takal through different eyes, because you really need to look at the Purple Tape and understand that it's like, well, the Purple Tape, if you're, how about this? The Purple Tape, top 5, top 10 album to most people, right? If you're picking the 5 biggest moments on that album, well, Method Man arguably might have 2 of them, Mike. Liquid Swords is a top 20, 25 rap album, Mike. What's the shining moment in most people's eyes on Liquid Swords? You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Enter the Wu-Tang, he is the star. Wu-Tang Forever, he is still very much the star. The only thing that you can really say about him is that he really hasn't shown out. And think about this, Mike. The albums from that era that they made that are super classic, he is a major factor in all of them. The ones that are the lesser classics are Return to the 36 Chambers and Iron Man. And he only has 1 verse of each. He's showing up and showing out on the rest of this shit.
You're right. You're right.
So is Takal really that bad? Because those albums aren't as good without him. So maybe he gave them some of his best shit.
You think that's what it is? I think, this is how I look at it.
You heard the hook to Ice Cream, Mike.
No, I agree with that. I think what it is, and it's kind of gonna, what I'm about to say is kind of like reason for that as well. I think what Takal was, it was kind of the warm up for not only him, but RZA. They had never produced a solo album in that chamber anymore. So with Takal, they kind of were working out the kinks. They knew what worked, what didn't. And you could tell that Takal was the first solo album to come out of the Clan, right? They improved the model with the second, third, and fourth. You could tell that Takal was the first one that they made. And that right there in itself, I can't fault Method Man, Takal, or RZA for that. It sounds like, look, we got to start somewhere. It's different than not having all the guys in the studio like they did for Into the 36 Chambers. So Takal just seemed like the ground floor, like, yo, we putting this together. We have a tight deadline to put it together, and they put it out. And I think that from the other albums, RZA may have went back, and Method Man too, and improved on what they didn't do on Takal and used it for the other stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's why he's so pivotal in those other albums.
Okay, but what I'm saying is imagine if Method's like, no, I'm keeping Shadowboxing and Ice Cream for my album. That's all I'm saying.
I could see Shadowboxing, because that could easily just be his song. He has 2 verses. Could you hear Method Man doing 3 verses in the hook on Ice Cream?
No, I could see him actually featuring Ghost and Ray on Ice Cream, though, and taking the first verse, though. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I could see him taking the first verse and giving the second and third verse to Ray and Ghost.
That's fair.
Like, I don't know, a little Purple Tape lead in.
That's fair.
Like, right, just throwing stuff out there. It's all conjecture.
Peter Parks with a super chat says, Stakes is High is their most accessible album. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. I think that's the one that, if you're, I don't want to say a traditional hip-hop fan, but if you're just a hip-hop fan who's not into the super creative stuff like, some of us are, myself included, that'll be the one that most people can just draw to. Like, if somebody's never heard any De La Soul's music, which could be a possibility today, right? We got some people who are listening who have probably never heard any De La Soul albums. What album would you say they should listen to first? I might lean towards Stakes is High.
Stakes is High is the album that's just on what I like to call some rap shit. So probably that. If you're feeding this album if you're feeding them to somebody who loves hip hop, and you're like, hey, I want you to get acquainted with these guys, I would give them Stakes is High first too, because the other stuff might get them lost early. Be like, I like those guys, but I want to hear. You know what I mean?
I
So
learned
save
this
the
tough
time.
lesson too with Tribe, because my personal favorite Tribe album is People's Instinctive, and it was a younger person who ain't really heard Tribe like that, and I was like, yo, you got to hear this album, and they ain't really like it like that. I was like, yeah, that was the wrong lead in.
I just still don't see how you can do. It's funny.
I
People love
love
what they
People's
love.
Instinctive.
It's
I,
just I don't see how you can listen to the Midnight Marauders and the Low End Theory and just you're right. Midnight Marauders and the Low End Theory like totally ruined me like on People's Instinctive. I was like, why would I go do that?
I mean, what don't you like about People's Instinctive?
It's just not as good, Mike. It's like because they're not really necessarily like you said of our era. It's like so when I tend to want to hear people that aren't from our era, I tend to want to hear their best one or two albums. And if I get on a dig, I'll go further. But it's like when I want to hear Tribe, Mike, it's like, well, People's Instinctive isn't where I go because the Low End Theory and Midnight Marauders is sitting right there in front of it.
People's Instinctive is perfect though. Like, you don't like Pushing Along. You don't like the Luck of Lucien. You don't like After Hours.
I like After Hours.
After Hours is fine. If you like After
Yeah.
Hours, how don't you like Luck of Lucien?
Just not.
You don't like Footprints?
I like Footprints. Footprints is
Footprints
the shit.
is great.
Footprints is the shit.
Do you like El Segundo?
I used to like it more when I was a kid than I do now, Mike. I don't like it as much now. I liked it more when I was younger.
El Segundo is kind of their, parents just don't understand me, myself, and I type of vibe. What about Public Enemy? I like that record too. So you don't like Bonita Applebum?
It's Bonita, Mike. So I mean,
Can I Kick It?
I don't love Can I Kick It the way y'all do.
Really?
I'm gonna be
The
totally
drums.
honest. Yeah, I have to be totally honest. I don't love Can I Kick It the way that y'all do.
I like Can I Kick It more than I like Check the Rhyme. I always have.
No, I do not feel that way at all. I don't feel that way at all. I love
It's the
Check the Rhyme.
beat,
Check the
man.
Rhyme Check the Rhyme might be top 5 to 7 for me.
Nah, the drums on Can I Kick It is crazy, man.
I'm a rap nigga, Mike. I'm just like,
Okay, you're listening to the rap. They are better rappers on Check the Rhyme. What about Youthful Expressions?
Yeah.
Rhythm. Now, see, Rhythm was one of the records that was kind of like, And Mr. Muhammad was cool.
Mr. Muhammad was cool.
Ham and Eggs.
Ham and Eggs is pretty dope.
Ham and Eggs is dope. And one of my personal favorite, Description of a Fool. Now, I didn't like Go Ahead in the Rain. I think that's probably
I think
my
Description
least
of
favorite
a Fool is good, but should have been better. Does that make sense?
I feel you. I could see that. I think Description of a Fool should have been a single.
I could see that for the times.
Brandon Sloan with the super chat says, want to hear y'all take on Cole's new verse, feature verse. It dropped today on the J-Hope's ish. I don't know who J-Hope's is, but Cole's verse got me hyped. 2023 Cole looking crazy. I didn't hear this Cole verse. Did you hear that? We got to get on that. JY with the super chat says, Cole has been taking things worldwide. London with B.I. and the new joint with J-Hope. Big things are coming for him.
What's the name of the record?
Just look up J-Hope. Let's see. Let's do this right here live, man. J-Hope. I know they're going to tell us. Oh, it's called On the Street. Somebody said that before. On the Streets. And let's see. Let me get some of these other super chats. Cam Porter with the super chat says, Nasir or Watch the Throne. Now, Watch the Throne's better than Nasir.
Damn right it is.
Eric Terrell with the super chat says, Coop, you moved the goalposts for certain people. I'm not sure which person he's talking. I think he said you moved the goalposts for certain people. I think he's talking about the Nasir thing, or maybe the Kendrick and Lauren thing.
No. I never said it was okay not to make music. I never said that. I'm not moving any goalposts.
Nicodemus.
What's your job? What's your job? You have a job, right? How that song start? Are you working? What type of work do you do?
Nicodemus with the super chat says, Nasir album was terrible. Daytona is the best work out of those 7-track albums. Oh yeah, not even close. Daytona was next level. I think Daytona is the reason why he even wanted to do that, 7-song series. Raising Yoda with the super chat says, "Can I get a shout out? My birthday is tomorrow. Thanks. Shout out to Raising Yoda. Happy birthday to you, bro." Eric Terrell with the super chat says, "Black Radio 3 by Robert Glasper. Your thoughts?" I didn't know that came out today. Got to check that out. Is that an R&B record? Like what he did that got R&B album of the year at the Grammys, or is that doing something else? Is that hip hop this time? The Raisin Head with the super chat says Murder Music is Mobb Deep's best album, better than P-Ball. Let's see where else are we at. Catching up on these super chats. I think Coop's hearing this J. Cole verse as we speak. Shaka Ra Speaks with the super chat says, on a future show, I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on AOL 1 and 2. Also, and how you rate their group standings based on the strength of catalog. Based on the catalog, De La could possibly have the strongest album for album catalog that we've ever seen in hip hop, to be perfectly honest.
It's a pretty dope verse, Mike. It's pretty dope. He got busy. He started flexing on the second. The second half is better than the first half, but he started flexing. He said, "You see a top 10 list. I see a Golden Corral."
He must feel a way about the fact that Kendrick's number 2, and he's like, what was he like, number 15 or something?
Very problematic.
That's crazy, right? When he's actually going out there jumping on these features and killing it and showing compared to other MCs where he stands. You know what? Let me put my earpiece in. I'm going to get through these super chats. I'm going to let you talk to the people, and I'm going to listen to the verse too. JY with the super chat says, how many of y'all give the W? How many mics do y'all give the W? I think it was good. I think the W is an interesting album. I think the W off the top of my head, I would say is a 4, right? I don't think it's a bad album. Once again, we're judging it based on what came before it. But the W has moments, man. Hollow Bones is a moment. That's a great record.
I was about to say, I'm with you on the solid 4. Careful Click Click.
Chamber
Hollow
music.
Bones. Chamber music.
Jeez.
Let My Niggas Live. What's the other joint on there? The joint with Redman, Red Bull?
Yep. The first
joint
song.
with Snoop, MC Conditioner.
I love it. That's funny you say that, because back when the album came out,
I fuck with MC Conditioner.
I didn't like it back then, but I listened to it recently. MC Conditioner is fire.
I think the problem is that when Wu-Tang does something like Gravel Pit or Do Your Thing, really,
yeah,
they just catch so much flack for it. It's like, oh, where that gritty shit at? And we're going to talk about that in a minute, because we're going to talk about Rome and Che Noir and why you shouldn't listen to these niggas trying to confine you in.
Michael Williams of the super chat says, if you gave the 2 albums a combined score out of 100, what score is higher? Ready to Die and Life After Death, or Illmatic and It Was Written? I would say Ready to Die and Life After Death, in my opinion. We're giving it a cumulative score out of 100, yes.
It's hard to do that, because now you're talking about 23 tracks versus about 40 tracks. You understand that, right?
Because I feel like Illmatic's better than Ready to Die, but it's not by a whole lot. But Life After Death is much better than It Was Written.
I don't agree with you on either one of those stances. I do think, how about this? This is what I'm saying. Greatest rap album of all time. Top 10 rap album. No, that's a gap, Mike. The same way that's that's like saying that there's not a, like, Mike, what's the gap between Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon? Like 1 to 10, because Hakeem would probably be 10, Mike would be 1. Now, what's the gap?
Well, I'm not totally on the page that it's the best hip hop album of all time. I think it's definitely top 5. But
what's better?
I would say, to me, It Takes a Nation, a Million.
That's not the only thing you got.
Better. I think that there's a fair argument for an Akumina out there too.
Mike, we did that with Mobb Deep. Now, if Mobb Deep was beating that Outkast stuff, what you think Illmatic's gonna do to it?
We didn't do that with Akumanado, did we? We
Mike,
did it with ATLians.
I love Aquemini, Mike. What they gonna take off of Illmatic other than One Time for Your Mind with West Savannah? They're not taking nothing else.
It's just a from end to end. It's just a
I
it
love
gives you a lot
Aquemini, Mike.
more. You know what I'm saying? Like the
It's more.
musicality
If
of
you talking
it.
about, is it better
It
put together? It's like
yeah,
a
just
piece of
like from end
artistic
to end,
musical work.
it's very obviously Nas is the better MC on what I'm saying, on that album if we're gonna go bar for bar. But if we talk about the collective musical experience, man, it's a hard argument for me to make
No,
to
Mike,
say
because
that it's
this is what
not.
I'm
You know
trying
what
to
I
say is
mean?
that every song you're talking about the album, but what I'm saying is that
Yeah.
when literally almost every song on there is a home run, Mike. Like it's like no,
I mean,
like every
same
song on
thing with
Aquemini isn't
Akuma.
a home run. Almost every song on this album is a home run.
What
Not just like
songs
a
on
10,
Akuma
Mike.
is in a
It's
home
like
run?
when the ball get Mike. It's like when the ball. It's when Bonds used to hit the ball out of the park. It's like, well, that's going in the water. That's what the songs on Illmatic are like. How many songs on Aquemini are like that, Mike? Where the ball goes into the water.
So Spodiote Doublelicious isn't a home run.
It's Mike. What is that compared to? It ain't hard to tell.
I don't know. Depends on who you ask, right?
No, Mike, I'm from down here. I'm trying to tell you, it's like
Depends on
Illmatic,
who you.
and I want to talk about the Gip thing too, because when he was saying that, it's like, no, Illmatic got played in the hood down here. You know what I'm saying? I know that because niggas told me. You know what I'm saying? Like that ain't even me talking.
CJ Kid with the super chat says Mosaic Thump or Grind Day, a great lead in. If you want a commercial aesthetic sound for radio, only hip hop fans. Let's see what else we got.
How about this, Mike? Forget all that, because hold on.
Because then I go the Chronic, Doggy Style, and Only Built for Cuban Links. I think that when you talk about those albums, it's like those albums are in the discussion. I don't think there's a clear cut.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a clear cut best hip hop album ever. All I'm saying is,
I get what you're
in
saying,
the discussion,
Mike.
it's Illmatic, Only Built for Cuban Links. It Takes a Nation. I think Akumanai's in the discussion.
Okay, so Mike, here's what I'll tell you.
Doggy Style's in that discussion too.
Here's what I'll tell you, Mike.
Yeah, too.
Mike, take the 9 best songs from all of those albums that you just name. Take the 9 best songs. I'll take the 9 songs from Illmatic, and you can pick which one, Mike, and I'll beat you.
You so?
Can pick, like, I don't care. Like, you can pick whatever you want to pick. Like, it's not going down like you think, Mike.
You think so?
Mike, you can pick 9 songs. Like, Mike, I don't think you understand. 7 of the songs on Illmatic are like literally timeless hip hop classic pieces, and you know it.
And I feel the same way about Paid in Full too. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Like, that's what I'm saying, Mike. It's like what you beat
everything on Paid in Full. What's that?
What you beat? That's what I'm saying, Mike. Like, respectfully, Mike. Like, my melody is like not better than Life's a Bitch. You get what I'm saying? It's just not.
I don't know about that, man. I feel you, but I think that
apparently you don't.
No. I think you're looking at this from a Nas number one type of lens. And
no, I'm looking at it from an Illmatic is the best rap album ever type of lens. That's not a Nas number one thing. That's telling Illmatic you, bro, being the best rap piece of work ever type of thing.
It's debatable. I mean, because my melody is heavy, man. Like, again, depends on who you ask. I'm sorry. I think that in an overall thing, I might vote for my melody over Life's a Bitch.
No, Mike. This is what I'm saying is like we got a Patreon. I'll tell you what. We can make this Patreon like the last 4 weeks because we're about to move like to YouTube full time, and this is probably going to be the last month for the Patreon. Mike, you can pick it if you want, because I was actually about to tell you, Mike, and here's exactly how I feel. I feel like I damn near might be able to beat you with Aquemini with It Was Written.
Nah, we're not.
Okay.
But I'm just saying. You want to
do it, though?
Nah, I think that'll be a waste of time.
How so, Mike? You want to do an example right quick? Like, Mike, I hate to be the one to break it to you, Mike, but watch this. The Message or Return of the Gangster?
The Message.
Right. Mike, Street Dreams or Rosa Parks?
Rosa Parks.
No, Mike.
Rosa Parks is better than Street Dreams. It is what it is.
Mike. Mike, I gave you power or skew it on the bar.
Skew it on the Barbie.
Mike, you're gonna lose. I want to do It Was Written versus Aquemini. If you think that Rosa Parks and Skew It on the Barb are better than Street Dreams and I Gave You Power, I want to go live and I want you to prove it.
Do you want to address this paid in full thing? Because you do know what the track list of paid
Mike,
in full
we can address
like,
the
right?
paid in full thing with Illmatic. We can address the
Because
Aquemini thing if It Was Written.
What I would rather do, I mean, all of that's kind of like side stuff. You think that if I pick the best 9 songs on It Takes a Nation of Millions, I'm not going to win?
Well, Mike, you were talking over me. I told you, when you said It Takes a Nation of Millions, I said that's about the only thing you got. Okay. I mean that shit. That's about the only thing you got. Like the rest of those albums you talking about, no, they're going to lose.
What about paid in full?
The Purple Tape and It Takes a Nation of Millions, which, by the way, are 2 major collaborative efforts against one artist. I want you to understand, that's why Illmatic is the greatest hip-hop album of all time, because you need collaborative efforts to beat his one effort. That's a solo mission outside of AZ.
Well, I hear that, but it is a highly collaborative effort on the production end. Let's not act like it's not. I mean, when you got Pete Rock, DJ Premier, you got Large Professor and Q-Tip, and LES as well. Like, you got those 4 guys who are coming off and making classic efforts, basically producing the whole album. That's a collective too.
Mike, you need literally albums, the best rap albums from rap's 2 biggest squads, Public Enemy and Wu-Tang Clan, to go up against Illmatic. What does that tell you?
But wait a minute, what's more of a collective effort?
Dungeon Family. Mike, listen to what I'm saying. Listen to me again. You need whole crews to go against this album. That's what makes it number 1.
Listen to me. What's the more collective?
Like, that's Dungeon Family all over there. That's not Big Boy and Andre the whole way
I'm not talking about that now. I'm talking about Public Enemy. What's more of a collective effort? You gonna let me talk? It's Chuck, right? He's the only MC on there, right?
And that's why I said that's about the only thing you got.
But again, what's more of a collective effort? Chuck and Public Enemy, the squad as a group, or Nas and Q-Tip, DJ Premier, Pete Rock, and Large Professor? Let's not sit here and act like that's not a collective effort too. That's a collective effort too.
You're talking about Public Enemy as if when that stuff is getting done and when they're recording and hitting the stage, like it's 1 or 2, 3 guys in the room. Mike, you sound crazy.
Well, no, you think that it's just 1 or 2 or 3 guys in the room with that collective that helped make Illmatic? That was a team.
Yes, Mike, how the stories go, that outside of Large Professor being there, those songs got recorded separately. The World Is Yours got made at Pete Rock's house. Large Professor did 2 of those tracks before this fucking album even got put in the mix. Q-Tip at Q-Tip's house. Yes, these albums got made by the producers by themselves outside of Large Professor showing up. So yes, when Illmatic got made, Mike, it's about 2 or 3 people in the room outside of the Primo sessions when Nas had literally niggas run into the studio.
It was a collective. Faith Newman, you had MC Search. They had full staffs on that joint. They did.
Mike, you're comparing a Public Enemy album getting made to Illmatic getting made and trying to seem like it's comparable hands involved.
It was all hands on deck for Illmatic. They knew this guy was the next. Let's not. You're acting like it was one guy and another guy in a room or something. That's not what it was.
It's not Flav and Chuck and the producer sitting in the room. They literally deep all the time, Mike.
It was a collective, but I feel you. Rigor Ross said,
Mike. Dungeon Family, Mike.
Well, yeah. Now that was clearly all hands on deck. Now that's different.
Hold on. So is Only Built for Cuban Links not all hands on deck?
Oh yeah, that's definitely all hands on deck.
Not all hands on deck.
Yeah.
If that's what you need to beat Illmatic, then that means it's Illmatic because Illmatic.
I think Illmatic's a collective too. I feel like Illmatic's a collective of superstar producers as well.
Right, but
the best producers of its
I'm
era.
talking about the songs by the artists. That's what I'm saying. You can go, Mike. Here's what I'm trying to tell you. How about this? When I said that It Takes a Nation, because it's like, well, you're going to hear mostly Chuck. In order for you to beat Illmatic, it needs to be mostly one artist. Aquemini ain't built like that.
Well, let me ask you this.
Built like that.
Let me ask you this: if Illmatic wasn't such a collective and the producers
Aquemini Only Built for Cuban Links is a better conversation.
I hear you. If Illmatic wasn't such a collective from a production standpoint, why didn't the other albums that followed in that era even come close in that way? The producers had a lot to do with how great that came together. And that, I mean, that's just it being a team environment. There's a
I'm not.
vibe going on.
Mike, Illmatic got made. Large Professor was taking Nas around to these people. Stop making it seem like they running around here like Public Enemy or Wu-Tang or Dungeon Family.
Well, all of these people,
that's not the same thing, and you know it, Mike.
all of these people that you're talking about that Large Professor was taking Nas around to, they were a collective. Q-Tip, Large Professor, DJ Premier, and Pete Rock, they all used to trade records with each other. They would go vinyl shopping with each other. They would trade loops together. They were already a collective. And that's how that even got made in the first place. That's how a Large Professor knew who to go to. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but let's not sit here and act like that wasn't a collective, all hands on deck situation as well.
Mike, you're so full of lies. Mike, when DJ Premier is recording New York State of Mind, are Q-Tip and Large Professor and LES in the room?
I didn't say they were in the room for each one. I'm saying that those guys were a
saying?
collective. What I'm saying is those guys were a collective as producers, and they would trade records. That's
Mike,
documented.
That's not the same. And this is exactly my point, Mike. That's not the same as the Glove and Dr. Dre and others sitting down in the room.
I never said
That's
it
not
was.
The same as
I never
RZA
said
and
it
True
was.
Master and half the fucking Wu-Tang Clan sitting in a room. It's not the same as Gip and Big Boy and Andre and CeeLo sitting in a room. Do not make it seem like that's the same shit, because it's not.
So if they did it outside of that room and then they brought it to the artist, that's different. Because clearly those guys were a collective together and they all hung out with each other and they all switched records. I think the Reminisce Over You record, that belonged to a Large Professor first, or it was at his house. Pete Rock got it from his house. So if they did those things behind the scenes and then presented it to the artist later, I guess that's different.
Can I tell you something, Mike?
Yeah.
How about this? What's your favorite DJ Premier beat? Because it's not on Illmatic.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Q-Tip beat? Because it's not on Illmatic. What's your favorite Pete Rock beat? Because it's not on Illmatic. Stop making it seem like that they helped him so flawlessly that they haven't done other greater stuff than what they did on Illmatic. Illmatic has none of those guys' best beats on it.
Well, this is the thing, Coop.
It's Large Professor's best beat on Illmatic. So none of these guys have their best beats on this album that you're telling me is a super producer team that helped this man reach these heights. Then why aren't their best beats on there?
I actually think Large Professor's best beat is on there.
It ain't hard to tell.
Yeah.
That's an argument. That's arguable. I think Better Man's a better beat than It Ain't Hard to Tell, though.
I disagree. But this is what I will say. That's how great those individuals are, because
ain't nobody trying to hear that shit.
No, that's how great they are. It's like, no, that's how great they are.
It's not award tour beat wise. Stop making it seem like.
Well, you know what? I'll give you this.
Stuff that they had.
You know what? I never was a huge fan of the One Love track. I think that if you want to talk about there being a possible drop off from a super producer on that effort, and I think it flowed well with the rest of the album, and I think it's the only real concept song on there, right? I think the concept kind of carried it more than the production does, right?
You don't say, Mike. The concepts carry the songs more than the beats do on that album. That's not them dudes' best stuff.
Again, I do think that some of Premier's best stuff is on there, and I do think outside of Trouble T. Roy, I think that The World Is Yours is Pete Rock's second best beat. Is that
Mike,
not?
Like
is that
I said,
off?
Like I said, so if these guys are super producers who helped them so much, show me where their best beat is. Because if what you got is one beat from Large Professor and the second best beat from Pete Rock, that's two songs, Mike. That's not good enough for you to talk about this super producer team when these niggas are sitting around with Award Tour and the 10 Crack Commandments and 1,000,001 questions running around. No. Mike, you was just sitting up here waxing poetic about People's Instinctive and the drums on Can I Kick It. How are the drums on Can I Kick It as opposed to the drums on One Love? Which one you taking beat-wise?
Oh, yeah, I would definitely say
I rest my case. So them teams of super producers didn't give their best super beats. The
so
themes
you're
and the
saying
artists
that
carried the album. Mike, the themes and the lyrics and the artists carry the album, and you know this, Mike. Ain't
Really? So
nobody calling
you think
Mike.
the
Ain't
hold
nobody
hold on hold
calling
on hold on.
Memory Lane a top five
Let
primo
me get
beat, and you
this
know it.
clear. Let me get this
Ain't
clear.
nobody calling Memory Lane no top five primo beat, Mike. Come on.
People love Memory Lane as a
No,
beat.
people love Memory Lane because of the shit that Nas is saying and how
Of
he
course.
sounds
Listen,
on that beat.
let me
But that
be
ain't no
clear.
top five beat. That is not no kick in the door or 10 crack commandments. Stop that.
Let me be clear. Obviously, Nas did his thing on the album, right? As an MC. But are you saying that you don't think that the production on Illmatic is stellar?
Mike, I didn't say that it wasn't stellar, but think about what makes something stellar. It has to fit the artist. Did they do things that fit the artist?
Exactly.
Well, yes, they did. That's the job of great production. But it's very, very clear when you listen to Illmatic, the star of the show is not the fucking super producer team now, is it?
But that's what great producers are able to
Listen, Mike,
display.
when we were sitting around listening to Illmatic, we wasn't sitting around like, oh my God, this is the best shit Primo ever did. Because he had already done Mass Appeal.
But
Ain't nobody
again,
walking around saying that.
You're not listening to what I'm saying. That's what great producers are able to do. I always herald the job of production that Organized Noise did on Goody Mob Soul Food because they dialed down and they let the artists be in the forefront, let their stories be in the forefront. It takes a great producer to do that. And it was
Mike,
a great collective of producers.
Where the cell therapy beat at on Illmatic, Mike?
New York State of Mind? You acting like the beats on Illmatic was trash or something. I've never heard this before.
Stop making you talking about Illmatic being put together by this team of super producers. And Mike, what you talk about how stuff sounds on paper, I'm like, okay, what the beats sound like from the team of super producers though, and where their top 5 beats at on Illmatic.
Let me get to the people.
You gave me 2.
Let me get to the people real quick so we don't get lost.
You wild, Mike.
Rigor Raw 7 with the super chat says, I can't wait for that Nas interview y'all finna get. We'll see. That'll be dope. And yeah, appreciate everybody out there on Twitter that was mentioned in this podcast.
You just tried to make it seem like what's holding Illmatic together, Mike, is the producer.
No, that's not what I tried to make. And I don't want it to be conveyed like that. All I'm saying is music is normally a team effort, right? And I think that Illmatic, even though he is the star of the show, clearly, Illmatic had a team too. There's an Illmatic crew, and the Illmatic crew is Premier, Large Professor, LES, Pete Rock, and Q-Tip. Like, name the hip-hop albums that have multiple producers, that we could just name the producers off the top of our head. Like, they did work, and they did a great job. And they did a job that, as a backdrop, has been very difficult to duplicate all the way up into what Hit Boy's doing. It is what it is. We can't disregard that. He's always been who he is. He's the greatest lyricist ever. Straight up.
And that's arguably one of the greatest lyrical performances ever on
Straight up.
Okay. So listen to what I'm about to say. I'm not saying that the beats are bad. The beats are great. It wouldn't be the greatest hip hop album ever, in my opinion, if the beats weren't great. But the way that you are referencing this, and you know how Illmatic was made. Part of what makes this team of producers so special, and part of why it's so notarized, Mike, is because it was groundbreaking. Name the album before it that sounds this good, that has this many producers' hands on it. It literally became the way East Coast hip-hop albums got made after it. Yeah. Big is in the process of making Ready to Die, and here's Illmatic, and that's why Unbelievable exists, Mike.
Yeah.
So stop making it seem like that it was the beats itself. It was
I never said that.
Mike, that photo is a photo that got taken. Illmatic did not get made with all of those men sitting in the room like that together. The Chronic, Mike, no, listen to what I'm saying. The Chronic and Doggy Style did get made that way. The Purple Tape did get made that way. It Takes a Nation of Millions got made that way, Mike, with literally people in the room. In multiples, Illmatic did not get made like that. And you know it, Mike. You know that's just a picture. You know it's groundbreaking because producers didn't team up and do albums like this. This was the first time somebody heard Primo outside of Guru being on it, or people from the camp. This is the first time you heard somebody outside of the Native Tongues rap on a Native Tongues track from Q-Tip. That's what made it so groundbreaking. It was not the beats.
I didn't say it was the beats. What I said...
You're talking about this team of super producers like they said he's the best heat of their life. Cool. They did not.
Cool. You're changing the whole
No,
argument
I heard
here.
what you said. You
No,
talking about
this
the
is
team
what I'm
of
saying.
producers.
No, this is what
Like they
I'm saying.
walking
You
around
named
comparing beats and
everything.
making the beats together. You
Cool,
were
cool.
bugging.
No, but that is the truth. They were a collective. They did trade records together. So
They
I
trade
mean,
records in the
and
record store, Mike, not
no,
in the
no,
studio
no.
while they
They
making
they
Illmatic.
actually used to build together. They were a collective. Why do you think that that's who Large Professor went to? Because that's their crew. But that's beside the point. All I'm saying is you were making it seem like everybody else had huge teams and it was
Because
just
they
one
did.
man. No, let me finish. And it was just one man who walked in the studio and made Illmatic himself without, discounting the great producers that are on that album. I just think that's inaccurate. It's not like he went in there with LES and made Illmatic. They did something. Eric Terrell with the super chat
Mike, he
says,
wrote New York State of Mind before he even met Primo. The first time that he spit it out on the track was the first time he had ever spit it out. Primo didn't help write New York State of Mind at
of
all.
course, no one ever helps him write. That's not what I'm
What's special
saying.
about New York State of
But
Mind, Mike?
the lyrics and the beat. If New York State of Mind is over another track, it might not be the same. We'll never know. But we can't sit here and just take the words in a vacuum and the track in a vacuum. If you have something great, it takes a collective to pull that together. Unless you're talking about a situation where somebody wrote and produced everything themselves, it's a team effort.
Were you listening to me when I was interviewing the Glove about how it takes a team?
Yeah. That took a team too.
How about this, Mike? Do you know how people talk about Dirk's championship with the Dallas Mavericks? They're like, that championship is different because the team was different in terms of how the team is designed. When I'm talking to Glove, he was really giving us insight to let us know that it's like, no, it's usually a team effort day in and day out to get it done. Listen to the things that Glove was saying. He's like, oh, no, what we did when we made nothing but a G thing, he's like, where was them girls at? Go get them girls. Where was the weed that we was smoking? Go get that weed. Like, that's what I mean when I'm talking about a team. And no, Illmatic didn't get made like that, Mike. There are literally videos and documentaries about how it got made. It didn't get made like that, Mike.
But again,
so when you're talking about this team effort, you're only talking about a team effort in terms of the linear notes. I'm talking about the actual process of making the music. The bad boy niggas I used to run with, when they used to see me recording by myself, they used to be like, hold on. They'd be like, hold on, we need to get in here. We got to get some people in here with you. You can't be recording this shit by yourself. That ain't how you do it.
Well, look, everybody has different work processes, right? You know what I'm saying? And maybe if Nas would have taken on the way that the Glove and Dre did their stuff for Illmatic, it might not have worked for him like that. And again, that's the genius of people working together in whatever capacity, because they understand what works for that artist. If things weren't coming together like they needed to, yeah, they might have brought some broads in there or whatever and just livened it up. But whatever worked for them, it's still a team effort, whether it looked like a party or didn't. You know what I'm saying? Eric Terrell with the super chat says, cool. What Nas got for summer vacation? Ice Cube.
I love Summer Vacation. Summer Vacation is shit.
Yeah. I love that album, man. Death Certificate's my shit. Mo Better Code with the super chat says, I really want Logic and his producer, Six, to make beats for K-Dot's next project. Logic and Six have always made beautiful, dope beats since 2014. They get it right.
I took some notes. I actually have a take similar to that.
Okay. We're going to get to the Logic too. 007 with the $20 super chat showing love says, Mike, the collective effort was stellar. That has nothing to do with the MC. And usually when they produce like that, the MC doesn't match. You can say that Nas' lyrics is better than the output of the production. And that in itself is heavy. Of course.
That's not the case on those other albums you're talking about. You do understand that, right? Yeah, the production on It Takes a Nation of Millions and Aquemini and Only Built for Cuban Links, Mike, those are arguably the three best executive produced albums ever, beat, sound, transition-wise.
You think the production...
Along with the Chronic and Doggy Style. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, when you listen to the production-wise, Mike, if you think Illmatic is the Chronic, Doggy Style, Only Built for Cuban Links, Aquemini, or It Takes a Nation of Millions, you're bugging.
No,
the
you're
fact
right.
that Illmatic is actually in the conversation with those albums that were that masterfully produced by 18 is exactly why I have it at number one.
You know what I noticed, though?
Standout of the group.
You know what I noticed though when Elzai redid Illmatic with Illmatic, what was that, like 10 something years ago, and he had a band. I forgot the name of the band. Somebody in the chat probably knows. And they came in and replayed those records. Those records replay very well, and I think that the type of production that was
Timeless
on
thing.
Illmatic, as timeless as the themes and the lyrics and all of that are, the production on there was pretty timeless as well. You know what I'm saying? Like you
Oh,
could
shit,
really,
Mike, it's beat breaks and loops. It's
yeah,
what
yeah,
Nas
yeah. I'm
excels at. You
saying,
can play
and
that live
even the
forever.
melodies there, like, and you could have that stuff recreated by a live band. That's great production. You know what I mean? Like, it might not be the flashiest production. It may not be 1,000,001. It might not be chopped up crazy. But if you want to talk about like some just great production and great musicality, even when you listen to his Kennedy Center show where he was backed by the orchestra, all of those songs play well live, replay well live with an orchestra because they were
Here's
put together very well. They were well produced songs. You could
no,
hear when a well produced song's being translated over with live instrumentation. I think the only song on that album that doesn't translate that well live is One Time for Your Mind. But
I
everything else
know.
produced on there, I mean, the musicality's there in every
Let's not
form.
get it, Mike. Those are Enlarged Professor and Q-Tip and DJ Premier and Pete Rock. We have four of the 20 greatest producers ever on that album. So I'm not taking that away. What I'm trying to say is that if we're measuring a bar by a level, no. Matter of fact, before we even get to that, Mike, here's just the reality of the matter. New York State of Mind 2 is a better beat than New York State of Mind, but it's not a better song. Nas, Mike,
You
the
think that's why?
rhymes. Like when New York State of Mind, the original drops, it gets more reaction than part two. And it's not because the beat's better, because it's not, Mike. It's because you know when that beat drop what's coming. Rappers, I monkey flip them with the funky rhythm I be kicking. Musician, inflicting composition of pains. I'm like Scarface sniffing cocaine, holding the M16. See with the pen I'm extreme. That's what people are waiting for, Mike. Because if it's about the beat, then they would play New York State of Mind Part 2. No, Mike, it's New York State of Mind because it's Nas. My rhyming is a vitamin held without a capsule. The smooth criminal on beat breaks.
I
That's the
agree
shit.
with
That's the
you.
shit,
I
Mike.
agree with you to a point, but I
It's
do
how
think
he's sliding on that
it
beat.
is, but it also is how dirty the first one sounds and how raw it sounds.
That's what I mean, is how
It's
he's
something
sliding
about
on
it.
it.
There's something about in hip hop when you retake something and you polish it up, it just doesn't have that same grittiness. You know what I'm saying? So I think even though from a technical standpoint, and we're gonna talk about this with logic and stuff, from a technical standpoint, New York State of Mind Part Two is a beat is technically better, but
Yes.
people gravitate to the original beat more. Even if you were to take Nas's vocals off, if we were to sit here and have dudes out there freestyling, and they're like, "Look, you want part one or part two?" They're gonna pick part one. It's grittier.
No, Mike. They're
You
gonna
gonna
pick
pick
part
part two to
one.
rap
Mate, they're
over
gonna
over
pick
part
part
one?
one because the competitive nature in them is gonna want to approach what they know is the better feat, which is his performance on part one. That's what I'm saying is so important about Illmatic. It's one of Mike. It's the greatest rap album ever because it's like listen to the beats on all the other rap albums, Mike, that are up there with it. It's like there ain't no ice cream. Mike, there's no ice cream on Illmatic, Mike. There
Mm-mm.
ain't no bring the noise on no damn Illmatic. Mike, there ain't no nothing but a G thing on Illmatic, and you know it,
Yeah, and
Mike.
that's why I would have a hard time just straight up saying it's the greatest hip hop album ever.
Like
That's
you
why I
know
say it's
that,
in the
Mike. Like,
conversation.
but you know all these things that you were up here tripping.
I'm just
Mike,
being
how about
real,
this?
man.
Here's the best way I can frame it. So a lot of people, DJ Premier is the pinnacle of East Coast producing and production, right? The three beats that he gave Biggie are better than the three beats he gave Nas on Illmatic, except the facts. Unbelievable, Kick in the Door, and 10 Crack Commandments are better than New York State of Mind, Memory Lane, and Represent. Tell me I'm wrong.
Say that again.
I said
Unbelievable.
unbelievable,
Uh huh.
Kick in the Door, and 10 Crack Commandments are better than New York State of Mind, Memory Lane, and Represent as far as the beat.
I don't know about that, cool. I think if I were to rank
Crazy,
those,
Mike. Unbelievable is
eh,
absurd.
if I'm gonna rank those, me personally. It's just
You
me.
don't say to mine, the only one making it.
I'm gonna go Memory Lane number one. Then I'm going Unbelievable. Then I'm going New York State of Mind, and then I'm gonna go 10 Crack Commandments, Kick in the Door, and then Represent. Even though I love Represent as a song. And see, you
Mike,
know
the way
what?
you're
I
putting this
think,
behavior is very
I
problematic.
think Represent is that clear example of what you're talking about. I think Represent, Nas carried that beat. Now that song on Illmatic, to me, every time I've always listened to Illmatic, I'm like, yo, he carried this beat. Because even that being a premiere track, it's like, it's pretty basic for a premiere track.
Mike, use a MC, Mike, back in the day, or at heart still, Mike. If we walking into the and you listen, if we get a tape of beats, like let's say they came from 3 different producers, and
Right.
you was like, this is this producer, and this is that producer. You would take the Biggie songs, Mike. If you had to take a 3-piece, you take the Biggie songs. Stop playing. Like, use an MC. Ain't no way that you hearing fucking Unbelievable. And Mike, just off Unbelievable and 10 Crack Commandments and the way they drop, you're like, give me that.
I could see Unbelievable being number one. I think that, and I think that I might be kind of, biased to what Nas actually did to Memory Lane. Now, I will give you that.
I'm
But
biased
as far
to it more
as
than all of you niggas.
But
No.
as far as the other tracks, though, I think that Memory Lane and New York State of Mind are better than the other tracks. Now, Unbelievable, I think that could
See,
be.
you're talking about Nas, Mike. That's what I'm saying. Like, actually, remember when Q-Tip was on his show and he played the original Beat the Memory Lane?
Yeah.
That's a better beat than the Beat the Memory Lane that made the album.
You think
it's the
so?
way Nas is sliding
I disagree
on
with
that
you.
beat. I'm going to say that again. It's not the fact of where the beat is, it's the way he's sliding on that beat. The way that he slides on that Memory Lane beat, even though that other Memory Lane beat is better, that's why I'm telling you, it's about Nas more than it's about that team of super producers that you're referencing.
Well, we got to move on. I don't even know how we got here.
I don't even know how we got here because you tripping, Mike.
Let me get to Leroy Green. Leroy Green with the super chat says, "What up, A2HH? Coop, Death Certificate versus Illmatic. Let's go." Also, fans should read Born to Use Mics about Illmatic. But yeah, the production was stellar. Let's see what everybody else got to say.
Mike, the production is stellar. Is it Doggy Style or Chronic level?
Well,
is it Takes a Nation of Millions or Purple Tape or Aquemini level? Then understand it for what it is.
I think this is when you ask that question though, Coop, and this is where I go with it because we could debate this forever, and that's why this show is great.
Don't nobody be playing the beats, Mike. How many beats from Illmatic was on the mixtapes back in the day?
Let me finish. Let me finish, Coop. Let me make my point.
10 Crack Commandments everywhere.
When you're looking at it,
Unbelievable was everywhere, Mike. Everybody was rapping Unbelievable.
Coop. When you look at it in that way, sure, but there's more to being a great producer than just putting down the best quote-unquote beats in a vacuum. The production job they did fit the artist so well, it makes Illmatic what I call the most lyrical, easy listening album hip-hop has ever seen. And the producers are largely responsible for that. Now, obviously, he did his thing, and it flows incredibly, but the way that they produced this, it's not about isolated individual beats. They actually did a production job in producing the artist, and they knew the talent they had in front of them, and they brought the best out of it.
Mike, I'm just gonna play devil's advocate at this point.
Go ahead.
If the beat's so stellar on there, then why the fuck that shit didn't sell like those other albums that we talking about, including It Takes a Nation and the Purple Tape? Don't even get Aquemini and Doggy Style in the Chronic in the conversation, which are multi-platinum albums. The Purple Tape, which did 800,000 the first year, literally almost tripled the output of Illmatic sales-wise. If them beats so fire, Mike.
I would like to answer. What sells records, in my opinion, are... Can I answer? Let me answer. What sells albums is hit records. And if we look at all of those albums that you're talking about that sold, Illmatic doesn't have a hit on it to the level of those songs. And it's not because it lacks production power. It just was, produced very well. And those songs just weren't hit records. A lot of my favorite songs weren't hit records. It is what it is. Hit records sell albums, especially in that era. You talking about the Chronic?
What's
You
the
got
hit
G
record
Thang.
on the Purple Tape that pushed it to 700,000 copies that's bigger and better than what's on Illmatic? And keep in mind, before you say Ice Cream, that's the fourth fucking single, and the album was already gold by then.
Yeah. Well, this is the other
Glaciers
thing.
of Ice and Criminology were the singles.
Yeah, and Incarcerated Scarfaces is out, right?
Same time.
I think what we have to understand about them, and
Incarcerated Scarfaces, Mike?
huh?
Incarcerated Scarfaces? You think that's commercially viable, or is that hip hop viable?
I think that's on brand with Wu-Tang.
How that beat sound, Mike?
Let me finish. Can I explain
How
why?
the beat the Incarcerated
Are you gonna let me answer
better
your?
than every beat on Illmatic.
Cool,
What are we talking about?
Cool, are you gonna let me answer your question? The reason why they actually sold records is because, again, they're part of a collective that already had a fan base and it was already selling records. We've seen this type of thing happen. We've seen this type of thing happen with the G Unit. We've seen this type of thing happen with the Shady. When you already have a fan base with the Wu-Tang and you've already sold all these records, you already have a built-in fan base that's going to be checking for your shit automatically. So, yeah, when they drop stuff and they drop quality stuff, they're going to do numbers. They come from the Wu-Tang tree, so it's a little different. Mike H with the super chat says, I'm with Coop on this, but you two are cooking right now. Eric Terrell with the super chat says, Coop, Me Against the World is better than Illmatic.
No, it's not. Stop tripping. Listen to what I'm
saying.
saying.
I disagree.
This is what I'm saying. Mike, these other albums, they usually elicit responses beat-wise that Illmatic doesn't elicit. That's why I'm saying, like, Mike, when you heard Incarcerated Scarf, when you heard the beat drop, it was like, oh. When Ice Cream drops, oh, Glaciers of Ice. Oh, Mike, skewing on the Barbie. Oh.
Yeah.
Spody Only Dopalicious. Oh, Mike, every fucking beat drop on It Takes a Nation of Millions is like, oh, this is a concert.
I think the beat on Illmatic that does that for me is It Ain't Hard to Tell. And it always has been that
Mike,
song. But, yeah.
So Mike, let's just be honest. If It Ain't Hard to Tell is like the best banger on Illmatic, beat-wise, then I win. Point
How
made.
so?
Because where does that fit in the reference of those other banging ass beats from those other banging ass albums? If we're just being honest,
again,
let's just break it down to the beats. Let's take the rhymes out and let's make it about the beats.
You're not listening to me. I said it's not even about the beats in a vacuum. I'm saying they made production that fit what the artist was doing. And you know what I'm saying? And so it's not about, I'm sure maybe they had some beats that were harder than certain beats. You heard that, and I think the perfect example is that Q-Tip version of Memory Lane. Yeah, that beat's hard, but they were like, yeah, that beat was crazy, but they were like, look, to fit what we're doing and fit what he's doing, we're going to need something a little bit more mellow. We're going with this. And they made the right decision. But in a vacuum, like you said, those two beats invoke something different. And they made the right production decision. That's the producing job. The producing job is not just making the hottest beat. You also have to fit with the artist, and like you said, this is a different.
They're super producers, and this is
exactly. And like you said,
you always talk about the job they do on Illmatic, like they gave them like they gave him their best beats.
It's not about the beats; it's about the production job.
It'd be about the beats with everything else. Like it'd be
it's about what they did. Let me finish. It's about what they did as producers. You know what I mean? And as you've highlighted, this is the first time, this many producers were called to be on one album. So it was very important for them not to go out there trying to outblast each other. This was about the artist. This is when you become a great producer, to go in there and say, you know what? This is competitive still, but I'm not going to go out here trying to, show out and play a Welcome to the Terror Dome. This ain't about me. This is about this lyricist. And they did a great job with that. They should get credit for that. It's not taking any credit away from Nas, but it's not acting like they didn't exist either, That's all I'm saying.
I'm just saying, David Ruffin, and they are the Temptations. Next topic.
And that's fine. But the Temptations actually did something too.
No, the Temptations were great. They could sing too, David Ruffin.
Yeah.
All right.
Eddie Kendrick was dope. All right.
Not David
What
Ruffin.
is it? Staff with the super chat says, Esco's verse on Life's a Bitch is better. He sounds effortless and free flowing, unlike AZ, who clearly is trying. The smoothest verse Nas ever spit, in
I
my
don't know how
opinion.
we got the critique of Illmatic.
You know what? I'm not mad at that
Ain't nobody even
assessment.
listening to that.
Even
Stop
though
that.
I think the AZ's verse is probably one of the best
Yes.
verses ever. I think a lot of people discount Nas's verse on that song because of, like you said, it's Illmatic. He's consistent. He's rapping like this the whole time. But I woke up early on my born day. I'm 20. It's a blessing. The lesson, adolescent keeps my body now refreshing. And again, that's him being a great lyricist too, knowing that my man just spit the verse of his life, and I'm not over here trying to quote unquote out rap him,
It's the
but I'm
verse of
coming with
everybody's
a
life.
quality verse. You know what I mean?
It's a top 10 rap verse ever. It's a lot of top rap verses ever on that album, Mike.
You think AZ's Life's to Be is a top 10 rap verse ever? We actually just reposted that show that we did like 2-3 years ago with the top 10 best rap verses. And I think his
Yeah.
verse is in there, yeah.
Yeah, it was a top 5, wasn't it?
I believe so.
But they might have came in 6 or something like that. Yeah, but it's up there. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's up there.
Yeah. 36 Chambers.
So it's half the shit on Illmatic, though. But whatever.
36 Chambers with the super chat says, I remember
When we're doing the
seeing
best beats ever, Mike, when we're doing the best beats ever, how many beats from Illmatic are going to make the top
again,
50?
you're pulling beats out in the vacuum. If we're talking
Beats
about
matter. It's called Beats, Rhymes, and Life. That's the name of
Product-
the Tribe
cool.
Called Quest 4th album.
production matters.
Rhymes.
Now, no. Let me put this in context. Yeah, what you said, correct. But if we talk about the best production jobs in hip hop, this album should be named.
Yes.
So
Mike,
production matters. Beats matter
other
too.
albums that are in the conversation with this album also boast stellar ass beats that are some of the best beats we've ever heard. Do you understand that?
That wasn't
they
the
have the same
assignment.
thing that Illmatic has in terms of production quality, and they got some of the best beats you ever
Would
heard.
you-
Mike, would you like to run down this whole Glaciers of Ice Cream, Incarcerated Scarfaces thing again?
So
Like,
you
what
think
are we talking about?
you think if those beats were on Illmatic, then it would flow like it did?
We're gonna go to the next.
You know what I'm
subject.
saying?
We're
Like,
never
no,
gonna- we're
no, that's
never
a
gonna get
production
anywhere with it.
decision. That is. You
Never
think
getting anywhere
if Pete Rock gave him Trouble T. Roy, then that flows in the Illmatic scheme of things? No, that wasn't the assignment. That's when being a great producer comes in at. And we can't discount that. 36 Chambers with the super chat says, I remember seeing that all 4 producers on Illmatic did collaborate, knowing that they were putting together something special for Nas. They knew that it would be legendary. My understanding was they collaborated.
Where are the co-production credits?
Rigorol 7 with the super chat says, S.B said, Cool Pac, back I'm rolling. Back I'm rolling. All right. 36 Chambers says, Hip Hop Evolution documentary touches on that collaboration.
Mike, do you understand? Hold on. How about this? What do you think about the Beat the Verbal Intercourse, Mike?
I like it. I don't like it as much as you do. I don't. I think we had a debate. You were saying that Verbal Intercourse beat was better than, it was something. And I was like, nah. I like it. I mean, I think that if we talk about on the
How
purple
about this?
tape,
If we were putting Verbal Intercourse on Illmatic beat-wise, where would it register?
I think The World Is Yours beats better.
I do too.
I think that It Ain't Hard to Tell's beats better.
I agree. I tell you, New York State of Mind is probably better to me too.
I actually, and
After that,
maybe this
pause.
just the soul in me, man. And and I got to give LES props here. I like Life's a Bitch beat better. I do. Now,
Verbal
if you
Intercourse?
disagree, I'm not, mad
Hold
at
on,
that.
you like the? Hold on, You like?
I
the
like
Life's a
Memory
Bitch?
Lane's beat better too.
I just don't want to talk to you really too much anymore, Mike. We're just gonna go to the next subject, finish up the show, wrap up. No, ain't no damn Life's a Bitch.
Coop's mad at me now.
Of course, Mike. Eye for an eye. Eye for an eye.
I
That
thought
beat.
that was crazy. Darren Harris with a super chat says,
Throwing it out there.
when Illmatic drops, I don't remember anyone being blown away by the beats. All we kept doing was rewinding the tape to catch. Y'all heard what he said?
Thank you. Couldn't catch me in the streets without a ton of reefer.
But
It's like Malcolm X catching the jungle fever. There wasn't shit about
I
no
agree
beat.
with what you guys are saying, but what I'm saying is that was the production assignment. You know what I'm saying? Like we want to make beats that are the backdrop for his life, and
We
they
need to
did
be.
that
We need
great.
to be. We need to be on the assignment of covering these albums that
Yeah,
have
yeah.
been
Let's cover
released.
these albums. CJ
But all I
Kid,
know is that One Love ain't even a top 10 Q-Tip beat. But whatever.
CJ Kid with the super chat says, "Beat for beat, Moment of Truth is greater than Illmatic."
Easy.
Andrew
First 8
Green,
beats.
Andrew Green with the super chat says, "The Represent beat on Illmatic is actually a remix. Primo did an OG version with jazz samples. Primo did another beat after hearing Tips and Pete Rock's beat. Nas preferred the OG, but Primo
Hold on.
swayed him."
Hold on, listen to what he's saying. After hearing Q-Tips and Pete Rock's beat, because he wasn't there.
But that's still a collective, though.
Case dismissed. Collaborative.
That's still a
effort.
collaborative effort. When everybody's hearing everybody's stuff.
He made something different because he wasn't there to collaborate for those other songs.
Well, this is the thing, though, Coop. Usually in usually in non-collaborative situations like that, you never hear the stuff until the album comes out. So the fact that he heard it before the album came out lets you know there was some collaboration in there.
That's competition. That's competition, Mike.
But yeah, competition. That's collaborative
Collaboration,
too.
my ass. Competition. They got the best young MC in New York coming out. They all want to shine. You can call it collaboration or call it competition. They used to talk about how they used to go into the record store and try to one-up each other. Keep on calling it collaborative.
Well,
I call it competitive.
Again, that's what Large Professor, Faith Newman, and Search called them for.
Noir album is really good, Mike.
It is. I like it.
Andrew Green for it.
Andrew Green with the super chat says, "Which beat do y'all prefer? The World Is Yours or Tips mix or Pete's? I like Pete's, and Tips my guy."
I'm still going Pete too.
Yeah, I like the remix though. Mad Max with the super chat says,
"You
dismiss." He said, "You dismiss Me Against the World," and I'm not gonna lie, it plays well next to Illmatic. It just drags until the end, but the first 10 songs are equal to or greater than Illmatic.
Some of what make Illmatic so great is the conciseness of it. It does that. It does have that over the albums that it gets mentioned with. It's not as long and thereby not subject to certain critiques that maybe you could give the Chronic or Cuban Links or an Aquemini. That's a fair perception, and I agree with Mad Max that Me Against the World first 10 songs is about as stellar as it gets. What I would submit to him: right artist, wrong album. All Eyes on Me, Volume 1.
Gonna cut the album in half. Uncle Fram with the super chat says, Uncle Fram says, "Coop, a super producer team with a young prodigy was the gossip on every New York corner before Illmatic dropped." Yeah, Uncle Fram said, yeah, the super team of producers with a young prodigy was the gossip on every New York corner before Illmatic dropped.
Super team of producers, that doesn't mean they were collaborating. That doesn't mean that Pete Rock and Q-Tip helped make The World Is Yours together. That didn't happen.
But they're super producers, so they didn't have to.
State of Mind. Do you understand that?
You
know, understand that? The collaboration.
I'm gonna say this, and we're gonna
Premier and Nas.
I'm gonna say
the collaboration happened between Q-Tip and Nas.
I'm gonna say this, and I think we can move on. I personally think, and we'll never know, I think that it worked to their advantage that they weren't Q-Tip and Pete Rock weren't making The World Is Yours together. I think that they all were able to shine and bring their own individual elements to this child prodigy, and without any interruption, and you got the raw them, and I think that is what elevated it. I think that if they would have worked together, them being the super producers that they are, I think that would have probably been adverse.
So you're in agreement with me that this is more about competitive fervor than collaboration that's going on with this super producer team?
I think that, it's probably more competitive fervor, but I also feel like that competitive fervor is still part of a collective, like I said in the beginning. I think that is the benefits of having a collective talented squad. Like people do that in workplaces all the time. Make the situation competitive so they can get more work done. You know what I mean?
Yes,
And
the
let's not
tried and true
act like
practice.
all I'm saying is we're not gonna act like there's not some level of a team that helped put Illmatic together to make it the way it is.
No, I
Like,
mean
yeah,
nothing happens alone.
yeah,
Glove said that. No, it's
yeah,
always going to be some sort
definitely.
of team effort.
And
I'm
I'm in
saying them
agreement
team
with that.
efforts. I'm just saying them team efforts is a little different in terms of how they play ball. You
I
know,
just don't think that, and I say this respectively, collectively, does Public Enemy have Q-Tip, Pete Rock, DJ Premier, and I mean, so Chuck D is Nas in that situation, right? So it's like, does Chuck, from a production standpoint, have Q-Tip, Pete Rock, DJ Premier, and Large Professor at the boards?
no, but he has more minds in the room.
Okay.
That's what I'm
But
saying.
do
There are
you
more
do you
people.
not? So you're
There are more. How about this? There are more Chris the Glove Taylors in the room when these albums are getting made. That's kind of what I'm speaking to. There's more
okay.
gloves in the room.
So
It's
you
like there's
don't.
not just a
Let me ask you
Dre.
this.
There's a glove in these rooms.
So you don't think that
In some of
Premier
these
has
cases,
a?
glove was in the room. In
You
some of
don't
these
think
cases, some of these albums, glove was in the room.
you don't think Premier has a glove. You don't think that Pete Rock has a glove. You don't think that Large Professor and Q-Tip have a glove.
Mike, I'm ahead. I've been digging. Why do you think I wanted to talk to the glove when I started digging, Mike? That's what I'm saying. So like, no, not that I'm privy to. I mean, like there are
I think
guys that put
Q-Tip
guys on to
does.
stuff like Buck Wild, Lord Finesse, like a lot of these guys, and they've helped a lot of these guys, and like there's been a thing, but like no,
You
like
don't.
have I ever heard any stories? And maybe that's some of that New York state of mind, competitive nature. I've never heard about these guys sitting in the studio together to collaborate to make damn near anything.
So you don't think, and maybe we can research this, right? You don't think that there was anybody that DJ Premier made, a New York State of mind represent or memory lane around. Like you don't think he
Hold on, Mike. Mike, this
made
is
it
what I'm
around
saying.
anybody?
The stories like that come to light. Here's what I'm saying. Let's keep it Queens. Let's go to Q-Tip. Well, Mike, we now know very, very well that the reason Havoc is so goddamn good with his drums is because on the infamous Mike, Q-Tip came in and helped and showed Havoc and even reworked some of the drums on some of the songs that were already done and obviously did give up the goods and drink away the pain. Mike, we know these things. So if these other guys had a Havoc, don't you think we would know?
I'm not saying had a havoc per se, but having somebody in there, because from the interview that you did with Glove, from my understanding, it's people in the studio who may not be, actual producers or beat makers, but they're hip hop fans, and you could tell what's hot by what they're reacting to. You don't think that Premier, Pete Rock, Q-Tip, and Large Professor have a soundboard of people that are around? Like, yo, when I put this on, let me see what their reaction is. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, of
Yeah.
course I do. But what I'm saying in relationship to the conversation that we're having, well, that's not the same as but Mike, how about this? That's not the same as Outkast recording the song Aquemini.
Oh no, I know.
And
Yeah, Outcast is out of the
listen,
discussion with this.
no,
I
no,
know
no, no, no.
that's a
Listen to what I'm
collective.
saying. Not even with that, Mike. It's different when you're recording a song. Where the team really comes in, Mike, isn't when the song get made, Mike. When the song done, or while the song's getting made. There's not a big gip around Nas for Illmatic, the way there's a big gip around Outkast for Aquemini. Raekwon and Ghost have each other. They also
Yeah.
have Method Man right there, who's a platinum artist by now. They have RZA by now, who's on project technically number 4 by now. Yeah, that's different, is all I'm saying. Public Enemy got a whole crew in the Nation of Islam behind them, Mike. It is not the same thing. They got their crew and they got the Nation. No, that's not the same
I
thing
think
as
the
bringing
only
some
thing we
niggas.
can really
Mike, that's not
compare
the same
this
as bringing
to.
some niggas from the bridge who don't rap into the studio with AZ. It's not.
Now, this is what I will say, and I think that the stories that I've heard about Paid in Full being put together, it literally sounded like it was Molly Mall in there and Rakim in there, sitting down in a chair, rapping with what they were called No Energy at that time, and just going to the next track.
Okay, so Mike, let's go to Paid in Full right quick. Rakim has stories about recording my melody and about how Shan is there literally critiquing him and Marley is critiquing him like, you gonna rhyme like that on the record?
He's
See,
like,
that's what
yeah.
I'm saying. Like even though that was like a detraction, no. Like Shan was there when my melody was being made.
So you don't think Jungle
Who the
Nobody was there when Illmatic was
They
being made?
don't rap, Mike. Shan raps. That's what I'm trying to say. You got other artists and MCs and creative minds, not just dudes from the block. Everybody gonna have dudes from the block. I'm talking about the creative minds who MC that are actually there. So that's why when you're talking about Aquemini, Mike, it's like, no, Mike, like that's 1998. They got Goody there. They
That's
got
true.
Breeze there. They got Witch Doctor there. Witch Doctor could have been like, hey, that drop on Mama Cita ain't right. Fix that right quick. Nas
The,
didn't have that.
Now let me ask you this though: does that make the album any lesser because there were more hands on it? It's kind of
No, I
like the
don't.
it's kind of like the Michael Jackson Prince argument I've always had with many Prince fans, where it's like, yeah, Michael had a lot of people in there, where Prince had more of a minimal, but it's like, okay, well, when you listen to the finished product, does that? I mean, do we even factor those things in, or are we just listening to the music as they are?
How about this? And there's something to be said about it on both sides. But when it comes to the creative process, Mike, well, I've always told you this. If I was picking, if we were like splitting hairs, and of course, when you're talking about Prince and Michael Jackson, you're splitting hairs, and it's like, oh, well, who has Prince been in the studio with that's comparable to Quincy Jones?
Right.
End of discussion. Wendy and Lisa, as much as I love some damn Wendy and Lisa, Mike, that's not Quincy.
Mm-mm.
That is a little bit of a leg up. And all I'm saying is that, well, when you have an organized noise and a goody mob and a witch doctor and a cool breeze and a big Rube, and then even at the time, like ancillary factors like Erica Badu, Joy, like when you have these people,
Deborah Killings.
not Mike, listen to what I'm saying, not just listening to the music, but they're artists too,
Yeah.
so they're contributing their critique to their sounds. Big Gip has said multiple times, y'all don't know how many times I've contributed to a song you have never even heard my voice on. Ain't no ain't no conversation like that about Illmatic, Mike.
Well, no, Aquemini was clearly a collective, and it sounded like it.
It usually is, and there's nothing wrong with that, Mike. The Chronic and Doggy Style has Told by the Glove collective efforts, Mike. The Purple Tape is a collective effort featuring Nas. He's the only outsider let in. These are all collective efforts. Those feel more like collective efforts than Illmatic, and we know this. That's
and
all
I
I'm
feel
saying.
like I can hear that too, and it's like for me, it makes me put the album higher because I'm listening to, like Glove was saying, right? When you have more minds in the fold, then the music's just going to sound grander because somebody's going to hear something that other person didn't hear, and that other person's able to add this, and you just get way more perspectives. And at the end of the day, I feel like the end product benefits from it. And that's not to knock any, other project, but what I'm saying is like, I don't know, I guess I can just hear all those efforts. But if we're talking about a straight up MVP for an album, yeah, Nas on Illmatic, straight up.
See, well, okay, so that's where I split hairs because when I look at all the other albums that are in that conversation, Mike, which is literally like all of those albums that we talked about, maybe except for Paid in Full.
Right.
Paid in Full is the only one that's comparable to Illmatic, not only in length, but in terms of how it was put together, in terms of the brevity of creative minds of artists being involved. So I don't knock the other albums. I give those albums an extra leg up because of it. So it's not knocking the other albums down. It's like, well, if this album is comparable, Mike, that's like Jordan's 37 5-5 season. I think it's like 37 6-6 season.
Yeah, something like that.
37 6-6, and then he had a 32 8-8 season. It's like, no, Mike, the numbers are great, but when you go look at the team and then you realize those teams actually made the playoffs, you're like, how? That's more like Illmatic is. The Chronic and Doggy Style are like the Showtime Lakers. You get what I'm saying? It's like you got James Worthy, you got Kareem, you got Magic. You get what I'm saying?
Well, I hear what you're saying, but I guess I get the
Dungeon Family, Mike. That ain't no regular team.
I get conflated when we talk about the producers, and we can't act like they're just some
But
pedestrian
that's what I mean
producers.
about when I was talking to Glove, Mike, and you heard it. It's like it's not just about the producers. It's not just about Dre coming in and doing the beat. It's about everybody in the room. How many people in the room for the Purple Tape? And It Takes a Nation of Millions, and The Chronic, and Doggy Style. Mike, Life After Death.
We don't know. I don't know.
We want to talk about some people in the room, Mike. There's stories about how many people in the room. DMX and Cam walked into sessions when Life After Death was happening and have told stories about them being unknown and meeting big. I believe Cam was at the session for Notorious Thugs. If
So
memory serves.
nobody was walking in the Illmatic sessions.
Mike, we would have heard the stories if that was
Okay.
true outside the nigga A.
Okay.
Like, think about it. Big's there recording Brooklyn's Finest with Jay for Reasonable Doubt, for God's sake. It's like, no, that's different.
Okay. 36 Chambers with the super chat says, I heard the Rome Streets, but not the Shay Noir project. What are y'all's thoughts on these? Slow start to the year so far. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get into these albums. Leroy Green with the super chat says, Coop, Illmatic is viewed as a classic of classic rap albums. Half of that has to do with the vibes, and that's beats. There's a jazz boom bap that's classic.
I'm not trying to discount it or downplay it. I'm just saying, listen to it next to his contemporaries. Mike, you know this. Illmatic isn't as executive produced as those other albums we're talking about now, is it?
No. But again, that's why it's game changing too. Jadarian with the super chat says, I enjoy Shay's new album more than I did Rome. Me too. The production on Rome is good, but the MCing doesn't quite catch me. I like the way that Shay was rapping. Jermaine Johnson with the $20 super chat says, to Mike's point, what the Illmatic producers did is similar to what Ye did for the B album. The sound was perfect for Common. Give these same beats to any other rapper, and B doesn't come out as flawless as it did. Yeah, and it's not like Kanye's gonna give Common a song like Dreams or a beat like Dreams that he gave for The Game or something.
I like The Corner more than I like Dreams beat wise. You don't love The Corner?
I love The Corner.
The Corner,
but I'm not gonna lie to you, Coop. If I heard,
you think Dreams is better?
If I heard The Corner's beat and I heard the Dreams beat, I'm picking the Dreams beat. That shit is crazy.
I would take The Corner, but I'm not gonna argue. I think they're comparable level. Like I thought he gave Common some of his best heat beat wise. Like,
you know what he did, and this is very impressive. And I know Dilla was on the album. Well, Dilla had passed, but they were able to fit him on the album as well. But what he did was kind of give Common like an Illmatic type of backdrop, but he gave him a single with The Corner.
No, Mike, he gave him a few singles. Go.
Yeah.
Testify.
Right.
No.
Yeah. He gave him
Real
a street
People,
single,
Mike?
and he gave him a single that was gonna go with the ladies, like what he
Mike,
did with
he
the
gave
light.
him some, like they say could have been a single. They say what's happening. We
Brilliant.
say the facts again. That shit.
They should have made that a single. I remember him performing that. What was that? Live on AOL, whatever they had back then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was in Cali when B came out, Mike. That was my traffic ride. It was like, we stuck in traffic. Go ahead and cut B on right quick.
All right, let's talk about some music, man. We got sidetracked.
We just ended up talking about no new music.
Let's talk about new music. Shay Noir has dropped an album. Noir Never. Logic dropped an album. College Park. And Rome Streets, he dropped as well. I don't want to leave out this. Excuse me. I don't want to dream out. Hold on, Mike.
I'm running down the beats to be in my mind. No, Mike, them beats is fire.
Yeah.
The intro, boom, 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 boom. No, that shit fire, Mike. That shit fire.
Yeah, it is.
Testifies fire. Shot City.
You know what?
Fire.
It's crazy.
The food is fire. No, them beats is fire, Mike. What are we talking about?
Nah, I'm just saying they're more laid back than some of his quote unquote hit records.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
it's a
saying?
Cool vibe. No, how about this? Common's a poet. Nas is a poet. You have to give them room to speak.
And that's what
they
Kanye
can rhyme
did
over bangers.
Yep.
They can rhyme over bangers.
Yeah. But that wasn't the assignment. The banger was The Corner.
Man, you in the record business, sell records.
Yeah.
Records.
I mean, B made Common a crossover star. It's incredible.
I'm gonna say this again. When I was talking to Glove, Glove's like, I went triple, quadruple platinum out the gate. He wasn't saying that accidentally, Mike. He's letting you know you're in the record business. In the business of selling motherfucking records.
Now, you want to talk about an album, and we're about to get to these new albums. You want to talk about an album that sounded like one guy and the other guy was just in the studio and made and put out? That's Daytona to me. I could be wrong, but that shit sound like it was Kanye in there with a beat machine and Pusha T in there with a notepad. Nothing in between. Well, you know, he
Now,
has
we
some
want to
features
cover
on it.
first, Mike, so we can stop arguing. We've been
I
arguing for about
think
an hour.
that you're right. Real quick, let's do the Dreamville thing real quick. What did you think about
Do a
this?
little Dreamville rundown.
Yeah,
I
what you
started
think
listening
about
to it.
this?
I haven't finished.
Yeah, what you think about the Dreamville Creed 3 soundtrack?
I want to talk to Dreamville. They on fire, Mike.
They are on fire.
I want to talk to Dreamville.
Listen,
I want to
man.
talk to the collective. Like,
Yeah.
damn that isolation. Since we're talking about collectives and how about this? Dreamville is being proof positive of how that group, that teamwork, that effort, not just producers, but the minds and the artists. You see how that shit working for them? You see how that collab album sounded last year? You see how they sound on this?
Yep.
Like, no, this is what happens when people get in the room and work together, and like they're showing themselves. It's like everybody flying their verses now. Everybody kind of link up and party and do a song together. No, you can tell that these people make music together.
Yep. No,
That's what
real.
you can tell. They make music together.
Yeah, they're not just sending each other tracks. I think early on, and it might be too early to tell, I know we're probably not going to get a whole bunch of hip-hop soundtracks, but I do think that this is going to be in the category for Best Collaborative Album this year.
Who won last year, Mike? Did we give it to Mount Westmore? Or was that OG album?
I think that might have been OG album. I'm going to have to go back and look. I think that it might have been Dreamville.
It might have been Dreamville, Mike.
Yeah, it might have been Dreamville.
They're making the best music as a camp right now. You understand?
And, you know, it made me think, and I hate to do this, but, you know, we got to do this, right? Because I know people are thinking this as well. It made me think about when people were giving Kendrick Lamar credit for, I guess, his work on the Black Panther soundtrack.
Better stop that.
This is better than the Black Panther soundtrack to me.
Mike, so what's the shit that was last year? Like, honestly, what are we talking about? We're going to talk about Kendrick again. We're talking about this Logic album. Yeah. I don't know how you can sit up there and tell me that Mr. Morale and the High Steppers was a good album and then listen to this Logic album. Mike, listen to this Logic album.
Hold on. I want to frame this, man, because LP with the Super Chat.
I'm about to paint some pictures.
Because I would love to hear what you got to say and you got notes. LP with the Super Chat says, I rap with the passion of Christ, nigga. Cross me. Took me out of space. And niggas thought they lost me. I'm back like a
chiropractor with B-Boy survival rap.
This ain't 94 Joe. We can't
go back. Ooh.
My man.
NBA Jam.
Yeah. Crazy.
NBA Jam.
Yo, this is what I was going to say, though. When I listened to the Logic, I want to say maybe last week, in the middle of this week, I'm like, yo, this shit is dope.
Listen, hey, that boy good. That boy real good.
And so I'm the same person, and I've never been huge on Logic. When he dropped Vinyl Days last year, I was like, yo, this shit is dope. And Coop was like, not feeling it. And so I'm thinking this is gonna be the same thing that happens this time. I'm like, Logic did everything technically right, but I could see people being like, he's corny, whatever. And so Coop hits me like, yo, this Logic is fire. So I would love to hear your perspective on this and how you feel it differs from Vinyl Days in that way.
Because Mike, on this album, when he's writing, he gets trapped in between the lines and he escapes. When he finishes the rhyme, he's got soul on this album.
You think so?
Ain't no knocking what the fuck I just heard, Mike. The shit got soul.
Redman has a verse of the year contender on that album too.
Say what?
Redman has a verse of the year contender on that album too.
Well, let's start with what's soulful. That might be the funkiest shit I heard this year was him and Redman on the track together. Redman got busy. Redman ain't got busy like this since he was on the Cypher. And that might have been the best verse that year. Redman's verse on, what is it, self-meditation? Is that what it's called, I think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, I remember the record. Yeah, that's the verse of the year so far. That's the bar for the verse of the year. Either that or the Cole verse that I just heard. I just need to hear the Cole verse with some more clarity.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what I mean. And I'm not taking credit, and neither should you, because I don't know if they're listening to us or not, Mike. But production-wise, this feels so much more soulful. and groovy and funky than anything that he's ever made. I do not even think lyrically this is even probably the best that he can do. But Mike, he's in pocket. He sounds good. And this is how good he sounds as an artist. And I understand that he's a lyricist. Listen to some of the things that I'm about to say. First of all, he got some of Eminem flow on that second record. Eminem does have influence in the game because you can hear his pattern and delivery get picked up by people from Nas to Logic, even though it's all, be it briefly, he has impacted the game. That was the first thing that I noticed. Mike, Shimmy with Joey?
Yeah.
That's a banger. That is a banger. I'm going to say this again. I want you listen to what I'm about to say. And I know how much it costs for this man now. He needs to go get Drake to do the remix. Keep that beat. Go get Drake for the remix. This is about to be his glow-up moment. He can take the spring and the early summer with that song with him and Joey. He is going to take it if he adds Drake onto it for a remix. Go turn in whatever whip you just bought. Go turn that whip back in. Hand that money over to Drake. Get your shit all the way popping so people hear this album. Because this album is like that. That song is like that. And I know Joey's a star, but I would love to see that record go over the top. And when I was listening to that beat and the style and the pocket that they're rhyming in, I'm like, that's a perfect Drake phone call away from being a summertime smash. It's one Drake phone call away from being a smash. I'm not saying I know everything. I'm just saying I know a little bit. That's a banger. And he's never made a song like that before. That I was like, oh, no. You can take a piece of the spring or the summer with that record called Drake. Pay that cash. Pay that freight.
Mad Max with the super
chat. Time for you to pay that freight.
Mad Max with the super chat says, Che in Rome was all right. I'm tired
I
of
want to hear lyricists make bangers this year, Mike. I'm sorry.
Oh, Mad Max with the super chat says, Shay in Rome was all right. I'm tired of the same beats every track I hear with the drill trap, vibey rappers, and it's the same with Shay in Rome. We're going to get to that.
I never thought I would say this, but Mad Max, I actually think you're absolutely right, and we're about to address it. Okay. It's the first time you've been right in all the years you've been watching the show. For all the super chats, the first time you've been right, young man. It's glad to see that you're growing and developing in these streets.
Mad Max with the other super chat says, like DMX used to have the Dark Themes album, but he would have How's It Going Down on there. Rappers don't do that shit today. I blame Ye for that.
Mad Max, NBA Jam, Mad Max. You're on fire right now. Point number 2 that you've been right on for the first time. Mad Max hasn't made a good point in years, and in back-to-back moments, this is where things can change rapidly for people.
I think Mad Max makes a lot of great points.
No. Mad Max needs to get off my lawn.
Mad Max has another super chat. He says, Ye brought this cohesive theme production thing, and people took that and just started spamming the same beats, thinking that cohesive... Keep thinking it's cohesion, and it's not.
See, there he go again, giving Ye credit he don't deserve. And right back off my lawn, Mad Max. You're fucking up all over again.
I don't know if I can blame Ye for that, but hey, whatever. But yeah, so what are you rating this album? Like, are we there yet, or are there some other things that you want to expound upon?
We're not there yet.
Okay. Andrew Green with the super chat says, one time for your mom banged in that whip. It's the reason why Ruth listened to that song the most in the car on Ozark's episode. You know what? On that Ozark episode...
Y'all gonna stop making it seem like I'm talking bad about the beats. I'm just being honest. The beats is dope.
On that Ozark episode, though, I was surprised at how good that One Time for Your Mom sounded, because we all collectively... put that at the very bottom of the album. You know what I'm saying? I'm sitting there, and when you're listening to it on TV, you're kind of listening to it in a vacuum and isolated and not in the sense of the album. So you're like, yeah, that's a banger. But when you're listening to it on CD, it's with the album. You know what I mean?
You want to know why, Mike? Because of all the lyrical performances on the album, it's the least impressive lyrical performance. That's why we talk about it that way. Because the star of Illmatic is Nas.
Of course. Mad Max with the super chat says, that's something I'll give Hit Boy. He switches it up. I'm listening to Rome like, bro, This is just you going crazy on the same beat, no
Mad
structure.
Max, get out of my comment thread because I have some thoughts about maybe being a little Hit Boy and Alchemist jaded at album making at this point. We're gonna get to it, Mad Max. Look at Mad Max growing up.
Do you
This is
want to
great.
get to this
It's a
because I do
great
think
day.
this is an interesting. I think this is an interesting discussion.
It is. I just want to give Logic his proper due for
Okay, yeah,
making
go
what I
ahead.
think is the best album of his career so far.
Do you think it's the
Village,
best album in hip hop right now in 2023?
so far, it impressed me the most off of one listen of anything I've heard so far. So
Okay.
yes, I will say that right now. Village Slum, Mike. Look at Logic with the depth and the concept of the real life situation,
Yeah.
addressing the alcohol abuse and the drug abuse and telling a story. And Mike, listen to what I'm saying. It doesn't sound like cookie cutter, like trained, like formulated, like technical. It sounds like it's coming from a place. You got it. Sold.
36 Chambers.
4.2 right now.
4.2 right
go
now.
up. But a
Okay.
4.2, yes.
36 Chambers with a super chat says Mad Max is saying that Rome's rapping on the same beats again and again could easily apply to most of Griselda's work. I love Griselda, and I say that respectfully.
We're about to have a respectful conversation because I have some comments to make about where we're at with this collective.
LP with the super chat says, like Mad Max being right for the first time.
First time.
Nas, he was putting it in that song frame. Anyway, okay. So shout out to Logic because I know that was his first independent album. But being, an independent artist outside of Def Jam, and
Shit hard.
yeah, and he came
This shit
through.
hard.
He came through with it.
No, he came.
Yeah, he
He
came
came.
through. Now, do you want to talk Shay or you want to talk Rome, or are we talking these two things collectively?
Whatever works. What you think works?
I want to start off. I think we'll start off with Rome then, because this seems to be where the concerns mostly are. I think Shay probably has some of these things, like it's a vibe thing, right? They seem to pick beats to vibe on. And I think for the listener, there's two things, right? I think the fact that they come out with so much material is one thing,
Ding, ding,
which
ding.
is great, but when it seems like, you're picking vibing production, for the listener, it feels like every song or every album takes on very similar traits, song to song. And when you're coming out so frequently, then you can get somebody to respond like a Mad Max and saying that you're all rhyming over the same beats. Not to mention after what we saw Hit Boy do with KD3 and just giving a lot of versatility from a production end. And it kind of begs that whole notion. I think we saw somebody in our comments last episode or whatever, when you put Hit Boy over Alchemist, they're like, no way, as an album maker. But if we look at the versatility in producing a full album, it's hard for me to say that I wouldn't pick Hit Boy to produce a whole album over Alchemist.
Well, here's actually to be correct. I believe when I was making that, I was like, no, if you want to put Alchemist ahead of Hit Boy, I'll understand that about the classic rap songs that are individualized, i.e., a Keep It Thorough, We Gon' Make It, even a Book of Rhymes off of God's Son, on top of these albums that he's put together. And like, how about this, Mike? It's like, I think
Alchemist got a Niggas in Paris though. I love Keep It Thorough.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I was going to finish with Alchemist before I got the Hit Boy side and say that Alchemist has made people who are great sound greater. See Freddie Gibbs on Alfredo. He's made people who are not as notarized maybe get more notary than they would normally get. See Boldy James on A Price of Tea in China.
True.
Or Bo Jackson. You get what I'm saying?
True.
So Alchemist is that. But he's the only guy that's working right now that I would put over Hit, even though I know Metro makes better beats. I look at your ability as a producer to make an album, because here's what I'm saying, Mike. It's okay if ideals and standards change, but fundamentals shouldn't. It's like part of why Kevin McHale, Hakeem Olajuwon, Tim Duncan are going to forever be revered is because we'll fundamentally sound in the post,
Right.
Doing all the fly shit How about this? Here's somebody that could do all the fly shit that was never fundamentally sound, and when they lost their athleticism, it was over. Amari Stoudemire. The game is filled with a lot of Amari Stoudemire. It's like, no. For about 4 or 5 years, it's like, no, you can go get 27-12. You can average 41 against Tim Duncan in a playoff series that you lose, but you're not going to be remembered like that. And so Hit Boy right now is creating pieces of work to get remembered for. So I'm not saying he's the best beat maker right now. I'm actually speaking to more what you were talking about, like on that Illmatic vibe. Oh, you want an album made, though? Because, Mike, when I listened to Magic, I could have sworn all 4 or 5 producers from Illmatic made Magic, but it was just one nigga.
No, I agree.
Does 4016 sound like niggas in Paris to you? 4016 building, when that beat drop, boom, 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 boom. Is that the same dude going, boom, 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 boom on nigga? That's the same nigga? It's like, give me that guy. That guy everywhere. Has an artist, like, Mike, has an artist. Does that mean I got to pay less money to more producers by picking that one guy, too? That's a good business decision to pick Hit, to pick Alchemist. It's like, oh, you can do the whole shit? It's like, go ahead. Now I see what Benny's doing. And we're going to talk about the Che, Noir, and Rome Streets thing, too, because now that I have a totally different vision and I can see more clearly about what Benny was trying to do with Burden of Proof. I see what Conway has been trying to do with switching things up, because we're about to address some of it right now.
Yeah. Mad Max in the super chat says, LP, that was a good one. Let's see. 36 Chambers says, Method Man Rome Streets verse is a verse of the year contender already. Okay. So Method Man and Redman both have verse of the year contenders. That Method
Man, actually, Mike, that Meth verse might be better than that Red verse.
I think it is, yeah. Vel Superb with the super chat.
Look at Method Man and Redman having the verses of the year. These old ass niggas.
Che's dope, but the album had no real choruses. Not good. Okay, this is the thing, man. I think that what we have gotten from the Griselda camp, and its extended family, is what we needed right at that time. We needed that hardcore rap back to a certain level on a massive, consistent basis, and we got that. But I think what you're speaking to and what you're about to speak to and what some of the people in the chat are speaking to, is there an evolution from that, or do we just continuously get that hardcore, Griselda shit that we know we're going to get from them consistently? Are there any chances that are going to be taken? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is somebody going to take that leap? Like you said, what Benny was trying to do with Hit Boy with Burden of Proof, is somebody going to take that leap and say, you know what, I'm going to make something that may be a little bit outside of what people are used to? I think now is the time where people will be receptive to it. I, for one, when Benny did that with Hit Boy, I was like, yeah, I kind of like him with, Derringer and all that stuff, but I see what you're saying. He was trying to extend it then, but I don't know if everybody was ready for it because the run was kind of like in the middle of its zenith. But now, since it's kind of leveled off and people seem to be getting a little bit, I don't want to say tired of that similar sound, but they're looking for change. Now is the time to really do it and do it to a high level. And we're just going to have to see if they're going to be able to do it. What say you?
Well, let's work in reverse and address a couple things.
Okay.
I think before we get into and this is what I mean, and this is probably going to take up the rest of the show, before we can even get into Rome and Che, I think we need to get into the collective and who they are and how long they've been doing this and how things really work in hip-hop. Now, I know they've been bubbling probably since 2018. 2020 was probably their glow-up year, right? 2020, 2021.
As a collective 2020, I would say with Pray for Paris, Westside dropped 3. Yeah, that was a big year.
Yeah, Burden of Proof, From a King to a God came out. Their core 3 all dropped major albums that were all really, really dope that year. And so that's what I look up as their glow-up year because people were checking for that. But here's the reality of the matter, Mike. I mean, Hitler Wears Hermes, like that has the cow on it. That one, I think that's Hitler Wears Hermes 2 or 3. Mike, that's 2015. Like, that's the cow is 2015. That was 8 years ago. Okay?
Yeah.
Now let's before I go any further, that was 8 years ago. Now let's contextualize this a little bit to their predecessors. Let's go to Mobb Deep. Well, Mike, somebody that's a hardcore Mobb Deep fan, about 95 to about 2001's their real run. It started losing a little bit steam after that because even though you've made classic and the music is great, Mike, it's the talk. Now, when they tried to switch it up, listen to what I'm saying, Mike, it was too late and people didn't want to hear it. It's like, oh, y'all doing that?
Yeah.
Y'all doing records with 112? And I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm just going to pull myself to the carpet first. Oh, I was one of the first
I was
people.
one of those
this
too.
Nigga Prodigy is kissing somebody on camera. I was like, no. No. My heroes, no. And so Griselda's going to have to make some changes, Mike. And not because what they're doing is not good. It's just the way the game goes. You can't do the same sound over and over again. And I want to be very, very careful when I say this. And this is why, Mike, when we were doing this podcast early, before Nas had this run and people were calling us a Griselda channel, I was like, no, I want this run that they're doing to be highlighted for what it is, Mike, because I was very clear in my mind that when we were starting to highlight it, that we were already in the year number 4 or 5 or 6 of it. Yeah. That's usually it as far as the peak of it. That's why when I was like saying, no, Conway's the best MC in the game right now. Wes is the best executive producer in the game right now.
Right.
Benny can be pound for pound the best. See, the reason that I'm documenting it this way, because look, it's 2 years later now. You see what I'm saying? That's how hip hop is. It changes, and now people are like, "Oh, well, these beats sound redundant." No. Niggas wasn't saying that 2-3 years ago. That's why you got to recognize it and love it and enjoy it when it's there. That's why I was running around telling you, Mike, it's like, man, let's pray for Paris shit, nigga.
Yeah.
Let's pray for Paris shit.
Now, what I will say though, do you not think that Conway tried to change, some of those narratives, subject matters, and even production with his album last year?
See, hold on. I don't even think we're there yet. This is what I was about to say. First of all, we haven't given Westside Gunn his credit for being the star that he is, Mike. He's a star. And star power matters. And what you're really finding out is that although the next set has the bars, they have the beats. No, Mike, they don't. Even with the sound, and I'm saying this respectfully. Well, let's go to Supreme Blientele. There ain't no Gods Don't Bleed on these projects that we've been hearing from. There ain't no Brutus.
No, you're right.
There ain't no Elizabeth. There's no The Cow. You get what I'm saying?
There's been a drop off.
There's no Jose Canseco where you're introducing Stove like that, or Armani Caesar on what's the joint that Armani came out on? It's the same album, the Fly God 2 album. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, Mike, these are moments. That's why I was documenting them like that, because now it is 2 years later and people are like, oh, we were done, we tired of it. Well, it's street hip hop. You're going to get tired of it. Now, here's what I will tell you. Part of what hurt Mobb Deep, as much as I love them, will Havoc make a certain style of beats. So the first thing that's going to have to change in order for this run to continue and get recognized the way that it should be is the beats going to have to change. Because I'm going to tell you what, when I was listening to Logic's album, I was like, these are the beats that Che should have been rapping on. Is exactly what I was saying to myself, because Che is nasty, Mike.
Well, another movement that kind of...
Nasty on the mic. Don't tell me she can't rap to them Logic beats. I'd have already heard her. I already know she can rock to any beat you give her.
Well, another movement that kind of suffered from, a great producer, but, him having a certain sound was Cash Money. And at a certain point, for Cash Money to continue to grow and elevate, either Manny had to change or they had to change him, or change him out rather. And that's kind of what happened. And it's hard to think that Cash Money would have been able to go into the next era and Wayne could have been able to become what he became if Manny would have just been the chief producer the whole time.
But listen to what I'm saying. So let's say that you don't think anything that Westside or Conway or Benny made is classic. Okay, let's just say that you feel that way.
Right.
Mike, they have classic songs all over this shit. That's how this run was built. You and I talk about Tana Talk, what, 2? Is that Tana Talk 2 or 3? Tana Talk 3?
Yep, 3.
Mike, Rubber Bands and Weight, 97 Hoes,
Yeah.
Rick. No, those are classic rap songs. Mike, go to some of Conway's shit right before From a King to a God. The Lulu album, Mike, Shoot Sideways with Schoolboy Q. Like, what's wrong with these albums is that the highlight moments, Mike, like the problem with Rome's albums, there's no blow for blow.
Yeah.
There's nothing that gives your audience something to look forward to that shows your growth and development is there. Now, to break it down in simpler terms, Rome is a dope MC, okay? His hook game is actually improved on this album. I don't think people heard his hook game improve. You want to know why, Mike? The beats. The beats aren't as good. I told you, the shit the Conductor did on Kiss the Ring might have been his best beat performance ever.
I think so. Conductor really stood out on Kiss the Ring. Now, I will say the beat.
How about this? Today, Conductor, we have a problem. Today, Conductor, we have a Conductor.
Did Conductor do that stuff? Did he do the stuff on the new album?
If he did, Conductor, we have a problem.
I don't know if I
he
heard.
didn't, Conductor, we have a problem. As in, Conductor wasn't in the studio, we have a problem.
Yeah, I don't know if I heard that drop. So, I don't know who produced the stuff, but yeah, I don't know if I heard that drop on this new Rome Streets. I mean, somebody in the chat should know. But
so listen.
Yeah, go ahead.
So listen to what I'm saying. So I can appreciate the Rome album from a perspective of loving watching the MC improve. It takes a lot for an MC that spits that classic New York, what I like to now call Jada Kiss punchline street talk, to become a more well-rounded artist. I hear Rome's hook game is better. There's no real standouts on this album, Mike, and the beats are not as good as the last project, which is why you have to be mindful at this stage in the game for where they are. See, Conway and Benny and Wes were working at a rate to put them somewhere. Now you are somewhere. The goal, you don't got to keep the fan base. You have the base. It's time to rise and fly, Mike. That's why I was on this show and I was like, oh, Benny working with Hit Boy again? No, I see your vision. Make some bangers, because here's the reality of the matter. Like, as much as we love 97 Hove and Rubber Bands and Weight and Rick and Crown for Kings and Gods Don't Bleed, that ain't about to sell out the Garden now, is it?
If that's what they want to do. But it seems like that
Mike.
is
that's
what
I
they
just
want.
Realized. Don't tell me you don't want to sell out the Garden. Ain't nobody about to, Mike. Didn't we all grow up on Mike and Prince? Stop acting like you don't want to do Purple Rain Thriller numbers. And that's the thing that I've had to even accept to myself about this is like, no, we can't keep holding these guys hostage to the streets. We got to let them grow, because our inability to let them grow, listen to what I'm saying, because this is our fault too. Our inability to let them grow is hurting the people that they're bringing in after us.
It's true. But when...
After them, I mean, not us.
Right. But when does it become one of those things where it's like, listen, the level of what you're trying to do on the different scale just isn't at the level of what you did on a core scale? You know what I'm saying? Like, because let's look at Biggie, right? I feel like the stuff that he made that was crossover on Life After Death, for the most part, is at the same level of the street shit.
First of all, Biggie Smalls is the illest, Mike.
Who Shot You, right? Like, Who Shot You is not a quote-unquote street record. That's something that...
Yes, the fuck it is.
But I'm saying that's something you can also...
That's the definition of a street record.
Nah, I mean, listen. I know when I went into the Virgin Megastore in Times Square, I heard Who Shot You. That's something you could play with a whole bunch of people around. Like, they're not going to play, blow for blow at the Virgin Megastore. You know what I mean?
No, that's why Biggie Smalls is the illest, Mike. Most of that shit that he was spitting, no, that ain't for rate. Mike, this is not for mass consumption. Who Shot You? Separate the weak from the obsolete. Hard to creep the Brooklyn streets. It's on, nigga. Fuck all that bickering beef. That is not meant for mass consumption.
Yeah, you adding the extras on it. I mean, you're talking about the lyrics. I'm talking about...
Fuck all that bickering beef. You think that's made for mass consumption?
No, I'm thinking that...
They not big.
I'm talking the
Ain't
Sonics.
nobody big, Mike.
I'm talking about the Sonics, though. You know what I'm saying? And I think that
that
sonically, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, he is who he is. And that's one of the things that makes Puff genius, too. He was able to take this gritty content and gritty artist and kind of, polish it up for mass consumption.
Hold on, Mike. That's what I'm saying. When you're saying that, it's like, no, Who Shot You is about Nasheem Myrick and Big, and nothing about Puff. That's why,
Okay.
like Nasheem Myrick for me was always one of my favorite producers growing up. Beats like Who Shot You and Tony or Y.
All right, One More Chance remix, right?
That's totally different.
Again, that hits that same level of any street record he would ever make. And I think that, and see, again, man, I really think that the record that Conway has with Jill Scott, that's just a quality record. And I feel like in a different era, in a different time, that would have been a huge hit. And I think when you make something like that and people don't talk about it, it kind of has to be discouraging for an artist and be like, yeah, man, y'all don't want to hear this shit from me. Y'all just want to hear the street shit.
That's the fan base that's keeping him in the streets, though. That's what I'm saying is, like, I've had to realize that it's like, no, you have to decide if you want to hold on to these guys or if you want to let them become the stars that they're supposed to become. Because it's like, it's because I see now that it's like, well, no, the bigger and the better that they become, Mike, well, the more that opens up the doors for those after them. So listen to what I'm saying is that, well, the door that Che and 38 and Stove and Love and all of them is walking through in Rome, it's not as wide as it should be for what the guys did before. Because I don't care what you say, even if you don't feel like those guys have classic albums, they've given you more classic New York hip hop than anybody since Dipset or Mobb Deep or G Unit. That's a fact.
No, that is a fact. That's a collective.
That's a fact. And so what should come from that is that the only star that I see is Stove. And that's why I've been like, well, Stove's the star. But also notice too, Mike, and this is what I mean. He hasn't contrived himself by dropping another album since Reasonable Drought. He's been on all the albums. He's been killing the verses. He's been killing the hooks. He's been killing the features. And I think it's because he doesn't want to be contrived. And he's very fucking smart right now for doing that. Because he gets to avoid the critique that we're giving Rome and Che today that is kind of deserved, but kind of undeserved. The beats need to change, though. As in, they need to expand their market and their horizon. They're phase 2 artists in this game plan. You feel what I'm saying? Phase 1 is Benny, Conway, and Westside. That's already takeoff and liftoff. You got somebody like Benny that was literally doing Crown for Kings with Black Thought on some underground mixtape shit in 2019. Now he's working with Hit Boy, who was just in the garden with Nas. Things are different now.
I agree with that.
And quite frankly, they haven't made anything better since Pray for Paris. So don't tell me that it's about the quality. Pray for Paris is a high mark.
I would say that the most reachable thing, we can expect consistency on a God Forgives, not God Forgives, I'm talking about Rick Ross. From a king to a god.
Marvelous.
I think that's a level of consistency that you can expect. Now, I will say this. I feel like Pray for Paris.
Conway's the only one that's risen to that stature as an artist where it's like, how about this? When Conway drops, I know the album going to be a 4 at least.
Yeah, and I think Pray for Paris is just one of those special moments.
Pray for Paris is brilliant.
Yeah, LP with the Super Chat says, they all use the same producers, and some of them think that they really that when they're not. Nicholas Clave comes to mind. He's stunting Ransom's growth, in my opinion. See,
that's what I'm saying. So this is what I mean. How about this? I don't think the beats are bad. Like, that's not what I'm saying. Is the production whack? It's like, no. Is the production doing what it needs to do to take these artists to the next level? Well, no. Because I'll tell you what, how about this? I'm about to go to
that's why I mentioned Manny, because Manny's stuff was great. You know what I mean? But it's like, you got to change up things for the listener.
How about this? You want to know when I knew it was kind of like Cash Money thing was about to be over? It's like when they dropped Project Chick, I was like, oh no. I was like, they don't got too many more of those left.
Yeah, it didn't have that same type of way to it. Because like you said, even if the same producers come together and do a Pray for Paris type of feel, it's not going to be the same. You know what I mean? You got to move on. This is what I'm talking about. On the Che Noir, the Noir or Never, the beat, the Caps Lock with Planet Asia that the homie Nug Life might have did, because that sounded like a Nug Life beat to me. I didn't get to check and see, but Caps Lock and Bad Apples, production-wise, when I listened to Che album, I was like, no, do more of that. Like the Veracruz track with Love, like they got off. They did. The beat, Mike. Love killed that joint.
Yeah, no, Love killed that shit.
Shout
Shout
out
out
to
to
her.
Love. Right, shout
Right.
out to Love. Still our favorite interviewee here over at According to Hip Hop. But but when I was listening to the beat, I was like, now is this beat doing these two fire ass MCs justice who just happen to be female? Because when I was listening to them on this track, and I'm like, man, if this is Method Man or Redman, or Nas and AZ, or Raekwon and Ghost, and you put a different beat behind it, you get what I'm talking about the feel? Is like, no, like it need to be some of that. Like, Mike, I like the beat. I like the MGM so much. It's not that Ray and Ghost are going back and forth. Mike, that beat fire too, Mike. Yeah. Beat fire to the MGM when Ray and Ghost is doing their gangster shit. Like, Ray and Ghost is the best to me because they rap over gangster rap tracks the best. It's like, it be some street shit, but it still be fly. Mike, 17 brick.
Yeah. You talking about 10 bricks?
10 bricks, sorry. I be upping the bricks on it because it's so hard, Mike. The bricks be changing for me. I be thinking I'm pushing way too. Be like, put a couple more bricks in the van.
36 Chambers with a super chat says, I love the grimy-ish, but at a certain number of years, the solo and collaborative efforts from Griselda sound similar. Show me you can reach outside of that avenue. A variety if the spice of life, right? Variety is the spice of life, right?
Funny. Variety is the spice of life. It's funny.
Let me get some of these other super chats, and I'm going to ask you a question about, how does this transition take place? Leroy Green with the super chat says, Coop, you compare everything to the Bad Boy era. Puff, I get it, but nothing can ever beat that in our generation. So use a different bar of excellence. I'm the one that brought that up.
I'm about to say, Leroy. I didn't even bring up.
I brought up Big.
You brought up Puff and Who Shot You up.
Yeah, I did. Our man with the super chat says, peace. Has social media affected the growth of today's artists? Because without social media, Griselda could be just as good or better than Mobb Deep or CNN.
I think they're better than CNN, but
I think that the freedom is a great thing, but one thing I will say, and y'all know I'm not a huge fan of that traditional gatekeepers thing that television and radio used to be. But one good thing about that is it forced you to change.
Well, I see a lot of people being like, they're New York State rappers, not NYC rappers. It's like, first of all, like, let's just go ahead and get it straight. Y'all don't have an NYC rapper fucking with Conway, so y'all need to stop talking that way. Or Benny, really, for that matter. Like this is what I'm saying. Like, and people in New York got to be careful with that. It's like, oh, no. Outside of New York, to a lot of people, they holding y'all up. So it's like, be careful about how you talk about people that's repping for y'all. Like, they repping for NYC, not just New York State. Like, they rep for Buffalo first, but they rep New York. They rep this rap shit. And right now, they are your most notable MCs. I don't care what you say.
Well, I mean, that East Coast...
There's not an MC in New York City not named Nas that's better than Conway. You understand that?
Well, that hardcore East Coast sound that they represent, you would think that, New York City fans would embrace that just the same. But I don't know, man. Maybe we're different because I know when Phil Bob was representing Albany, Atlanta embraced them because they were dope. You know what I mean? Like it was a Georgia collective. Same thing. And I'm not even a big Pastor Troy.
He used to be on Cobb Parkway.
I'm not a big Pastor Troy fan, but Atlanta embraced him because of the Georgia, unity too. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know why New York City won't embrace some of the Griselda cats.
Stop doing that upstate shit. That's childish. Like, they repping New York for y'all.
Yeah, and they're doing a great job at it too.
Leroy Green, a wonderful job.
Leroy Green with the super chat says, "Puff remix sounds of our baby ears. Nothing beats that ish."
Look. Anybody from the 5 boroughs that got a problem with them upstate niggas, just show me the MC not named Nas that's better than Conway, and I won't say shit.
Man, somebody said Fabulous is better.
You don't fucking have that. Conway would destroy Fabulous right now, Mike. I'll put money on it.
Oh, you got money on Conway over Fab.
Mike, and twice on Sunday, if we need to double up, the fuck we talking about? Niggas is wild.
Conway, well, Leroy Green brought up Jay-Z. I think you forgot Jay in this.
When is the last time that Fab even did something as good as Chanel Pearls, song-wise? I'll wait.
We
Fuck
got to
that bar
respect the
shit.
work.
We can get to the songs with Conway. Like, Conway be making songs.
I guess people don't feel like Conway's better than Fab. Huh. That's what I'm seeing in the chat.
I mean, crack took over New York in the 80s, Mike. Maybe it's back. I didn't see it when I was up there. I didn't see a lot of things. Maybe crack is back, too.
So,
you know what I'm saying? Since we bugging.
But you know what? It's funny you say that, though, because we're having a versatility conversation. And one could say Fabulous over his career has shown much more versatility sonically than Conway has as an MC. Would that be fair to say?
A lot of that is error in how he was pitched too, Mike.
But
like,
even though he
benefits, what I'm saying. No,
that's still his catalog,
though.
That's still his catalog.
No. Okay, so how about this? Is You Make Me Better with Neo a bigger record than Chanel Pearls? Well, yes. Do I think it's a better song? No, I don't. So,
does Conway have a Breathe?
Lemon Squeeze.
That's better than Breathe, then?
Yeah, Lemon's better than Breathe to me.
Wow. Okay. Well,
have you heard Lemon?
Oh, I love Lemon. But on that same album, you got a record with Mike Shorty, Baby. You got Grown and Sexy with Pharrell. Like, as an overall MC now, has Conway proven that he could do those things too? I mean, I'm just playing devil's advocate.
I think he's been in the process of proving them over the last couple of albums. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's easy to pull up Fab's catalog right now while Conway is still transitioning into that full, like, encompassed song maker. Mike, as far as like bar for bar and on some street shit, Fab don't want that.
Well, this
is what y'all talking about.
I think this is where it brings our conversation full circle, right? I think when you bring up somebody like Fab and somebody could bring up versatility, that's where all of these beats sounding similar from this camp could hurt some of the individual artists and the grand scheme of things. You know what I mean?
Listen to what I'm saying. When they talking about that versatility, New Yorkers never held that against Jadakiss in the city. You see how they hold that against Benny and Conway, who from Buffalo? But when it come to Kiss or Styles, they don't do the same shit.
Well, Kiss is on the Usher out.
No, where Kiss and Styles versatility at, if you're going to say that? Let's be fair.
Let's be fair. Kiss has Why. He also is on Usher's album. He's also made records with Maya. I mean, Kiss has versatility. He's been on Lil Jon records. He's been all over.
And that came from what? Exposure and opportunity. So when these guys have gotten and grown in exposure and opportunity like Conway has, what has he done? He's expanded.
I think we're all saying similar things. I think, like you said, they've done the work to get that fan base. Now it's time to fly. Now it's time to show people that you can do a lot of those things that people feel like they haven't seen you do.
Yes, like how about this?
Well, we've seen those other artists do those things. We can't front them.
Hold on. How about this? And I think this is very apropos. Oh no. If you can take Conway and Benny and West and sub them out for the Locks, they're gonna do the same thing around the same time. Do I think any of them is better than Kiss? Personally, no, but comparable results. Like Benny and Conway are a comp for Kiss and Styles. I don't know what niggas is hearing. Like, that's a comp. Westside's a comp for Chic. So when you're hearing the Locks on a Honey remix with Mariah Carey, well, that's them and who they're tied to and playing the game. So the Locks got a lot of versatility because they were rolling with Puff that these guys haven't gotten. These guys had to get their deals with Eminem and with J through Rock Nation and do albums with Hit Boy to start getting that versatility. They weren't bought in the game on some versatility shit like some of these New York acts like Fabulous and the Locks that you guys are claiming the versatility on. It's not a fair case to make.
I understand what you're saying, and that's why I brought up the fact that the machine or the gatekeepers were forcing versatility on artists coming in the door. Now that machine's not there, and artists kind of have free reign and they're listening to their fans more, and there's nothing out there saying like, yo, you got to make this record for radio or BET
this is what
or
I'm
whatever.
saying.
So
like,
now they're going to have to be versatile on their own. You know what I mean?
So Fab from Brooklyn, right?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, Fab's claim to fame, and New Yorkers know this, is the freestyle that he did with Noriega. That was his first claim to fame. That was some street shit, okay? Didn't nobody complain when he did records with Neo or came down south and did records with Jeezy? Nobody gave him flack for that. But he's from Brooklyn. I guess these guys supposed to catch flack for it because they from Buffalo, though, right?
You think that's what it is? I mean, he came out the gate.
Based on how people are talking, it's like, yeah, it's like, oh, no. We get to bring Fab into the game on some street shit and let him transition, but these guys don't get the transition.
Well, let me frame
with
this.
The help of somebody like DJ Clue. You see how these guys who are doing the street stuff have help? They have a Clue, they have a Puff.
Well, let's rewind this a little bit. I think for a lot of people, and I agree with that, and I remember hearing Fab on the mixtapes. But as far as the TV crowd and radio crowd, I think the first time they really heard Fab was on Lil Mo's remix. I mean, not remix, on Lil Mo's Superwoman, right?
Superwoman?
And I think that,
yeah. Damn.
And so when you have Lil Mo's Superwoman, and what was his first single? I Can't Deny It with Nate Dogg. That's
some West Coast shit.
Yeah, with Rick Rock producing. That's an easy transition, you know what I'm saying? And I think that was kind of a real balanced attack when it comes to first
but where's
single.
The New York in it that these people be claiming?
Hey,
that's a West Coast record. He came out on some West Coast shit.
He did.
Superwoman, them synthesizers, that's West Coast. He sounds West Coast when he coming out.
You're right.
When people are like holding up this flag for him from New York, it's like he never held up no flag for y'all the way Conway and Benny and West have, and he's from Brooklyn. What is y'all doing?
So what was his first East Coast record, you would say?
Keeping It Gangsta.
That wasn't even a single, but that was necessary. He needed that.
That was the first time I heard him on some East Coast rap shit outside of that freestyle with Noriega.
And because Youngin was his second single, right?
Holla back, Youngin. Woo, woo. That's some East Coast shit, Mike? That's some hardcore rap shit? That's some Who Shot You type shit? No, stop that.
Well, you heard what Pharrell said, or I think it was either Pharrell or Nori. It was in the Drink Champs when Pharrell was talking to Nori. But I think Nori said that the whole holla back, I guess the way he was rhyming, Pharrell basically told him to go listen to Vanilla Ice. Like Ice Baby. Yeah, Rolling. John Two Cedar, Stash in the Dash, Hold Through. That's a Ice Baby. So I don't know if Ice Baby is East Coast, but maybe Breathe is probably the.
No, Breathe is that shit.
Yeah.
Now Breathe. How about this? I don't know if any of them have a rap single that's on some rap shit like Breathe that plays the way Breathe does. Now I'll give Fab that. No, Conway and Benny don't have no Breathe.
What's it gonna take? I want to ask. We want to ask solutions here.
I don't know. I'm surprised. I mean, apparently he needs to do what. Apparently they need to do what Fabulous is doing. So that's what.
And what's that like?
I don't know because I never like. How do you look at Fab? Like, where do you? Well, where is Fab all time?
This is what I'm gonna say.
Because I just think Conway and Benny are better than Fab.
I think a lot of the adulation that Fab is getting, like more recent era, comes from the Soul Tape series. So what he did that mixtape stuff first, and then he did super mainstream stuff, and then went back to the underground. You know what I mean? Loso's Way was dope too.
Can I ask you something, Mike?
Mm-hmm.
Does he have one verse fucking with the cow?
Not that I know of, no.
What about Lemon? What street record he
what
got
is Fab's
better than
best
Lemon?
Verse? What is Fab's best verse?
That's what I'm saying.
I want to
when
ask
people be doing this Fab talk, it's like, did you see the Jadakiss Fabulous verses? Did you see that?
I saw it.
Woo, you want to talk about, people talk about Dipset took an L, not like Fab did. Dipset didn't take the L that Fab took. Like, what's with the Fab talk? And this is nothing personal or anything like that. It's just like, I didn't know it was like that. You talking about that Soul Tape stuff. It's like, no. This is how I know that people really ain't listen to these Hitler Wears Hermes tapes like they be saying, Mike.
So where do people have, I want to ask the people in the chat, and y'all could just put numbers in the chat. Where do y'all have Fab all time, and where do y'all have Conway all time? Like, I want to know. Because, I mean, I don't really totally know. I think I would personally say my ear test says I have Conway higher, but I could see the argument being made for the versatility and and those things, and just notable
Versatility
songs.
would just be one check. How about this, Mike? Real quick, just real
Fab
quick,
got
just for,
bars though. Fab got bars.
he's not better than Conway bar wise. And you're not about to get me to believe that he is.
You
I'm
don't think he
sorry.
could out freestyle Conway? Like if they was just get him to on Flex's show, one person spit one verse and the other one spit another verse. You don't think he could get him?
No,
Okay.
I don't. I don't.
People say Fab is top 40. Maybe number 39.
This is what I'm saying, Mike. So, and I like Fab, and I think Fab is dope. What does Fab bring to the mic or bring to the game? Like Griselda started a whole movement. What movement is Fab a part of? Like Fab came along, and you get what I'm saying? It's like if he's like that, why wasn't the movement like that? These guys have had a whole movement. Conway's been the MC at the forefront of it from the jump. Like before Benny popped out.
Well,
Like all
Fab
that.
has had a very long career though. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's impressive.
Mike, when's Fab's last album?
When is Fab? What was Fab's last album?
And when's the last Fab album that was dope?
The first one that comes to mind
Freddie
is
versus
Loso's.
Jason, the Jadakiss compilation collaboration album. Was that the last dope thing?
Well, that's the first thing that I was thinking. When was Summertime Shootouts? 3. That was like 2019, I think.
How dope was that, Mike? How about this, Mike? This is what I'm saying. Is that better than Plugs I Met? Because no, it's not.
What do you think that the Griselda camp needs to do to make that next step? Because I think we're all on the same page that there is another step, right?
I think the producers are going to have to change some, Mike. That's why I was like, you want to know what that whole asking Benny and Conway to work with Alchemist and Derringer and Beat Butcher and Conduct. No, I'm off that. Because it's like I'm realizing that in order for them to get notarized the way that they deserve to be, they might have to adopt some things. And
Who do
so
you think
that's where
need to work with?
well, let me finish this thought right quick and then you can jump in. That's where I think you have to be a real artist and start experimenting and trying new things. Well, you get what I'm saying?
I love the fact that Conway worked with Murder Beats, man, and I thought that turned out great. And
like, how about this?
There could be more of that.
Them niggas got Atlanta ties, Mike. So it's like, no, I'm not opposed to hearing them work with a Wheezy, working with Metro. No, I'd like to hear it. Conway specifically, because I know he has the chops to do it.
He's been doing it though. Like, you remember he was on that Juicy J album? Like, I like when I hear Conway over different
That's
stuff.
what I'm saying. So like, no. This is what I've been saying. Like, Conway been sitting up there flexing his versatility for about 2.5, 3 years now, and people are acting like it's not going on because they want to box him in as this certain type of MC. I'm like, no, like I'm listening to that record with Armani on his album. I'm listening. Mike,
the Murder Beats record?
What's the shit on
Ludacris?
No, La Maquina, Mike, where he's like the KD track, the Killer KD, I do the scoring.
Yep.
The shit with JID, Scatterbrain.
Yep.
The shit with Jill Scott. The shit with Armani on the murder beat, Aranzia. Like, it's like, no, he's been flexing. Why is anybody not talking about it? But it's like, to be like, man, he just do that East Coast hardcore rap shit. It's like, have you been listening to his projects? That's why I be like saying to myself, it's like, do y'all actually listen to Griselda's projects when they drop, or do you just hear the couple songs that they may spin on the mix at night? Because it's like, if you're listening to Conway's material, do not kick this fabulous versatility to me.
He just did a record with Busta Rhymes and Big Daddy Kane.
He just did a record with Busta Rhymes and Big Daddy Kane.
Yeah. Mad Max of the Super Chat says, Coop, Fab for my generation is Hove in New York. For everyone who lived here, you got to chill with the Conway is great. So is Benny, but over Fab, no.
First of all, and I say this respectfully, if Fab is y'all Jay-Z for this era, that's why y'all ain't been running shit. And I mean it just like that. I don't know what else to tell you. You want to keep it real with me? I'm going to keep it real with you. If Fab is y'all version of Jay, that's why y'all not running shit. Next topic, Mike.
36 Chambers with the Super Chat says, Mad Max and I
out of here with that.
36 Chambers said Mad Max and I are 3 years apart. Fab ain't no hoe. I don't hear him mentioned too much. He might work his way into a top 50 for me at best. You know, I think with all of the
I
people that are
thought Kiss
coming
was
in,
that dude up there.
I don't know if he's not in the top 50 now. I don't. It's not gonna get any easier to get in the top 50. You know what I'm saying? Mad Max of the super chat
If
says,
Fab is y'all hove, we have Houston conductor. We have another problem.
conductor. Mad Max of the super chat says, like Fab has people as young as 23 and as old as 40. If you talking just people in NY, some of us, myself included, will argue Fab over Wayne. He's beloved.
With what songs and what music is he over Wayne? Y'all are wild.
Mad Max, are you just talking about just straight bar work? Because I just feel like Fab's most impressive display is when he goes out there doing his punchlines and wordplay on like freestyles and stuff like that. Because again, I would ask the crowd, just like I asked about Fat Joe, what is Fabulous' best verse? What would you say is Fabulous's top three verses?
No. I'm about to fuck everybody's day up that's been saying this. You want to have this Fab talk?
Let's have real talk.
No. Let's have a real talk. This Rome Streets album just came out, Mike, right? Is Method Man on this Rome Streets album?
Yep.
Was Method Man on Conway's album?
Yeah.
Now, I want you all to explain to me how the fuck y'all got somebody like Fab up this high. Y'all want to talk about a star? You want to talk about holding New York down? No. Meth got the hit records. Meth got the crew. Meth is getting down with the crew that's most active right now. How dare y'all bring up Fab like he belongs in this conversation? That's why I was like, oh, you want to talk about Meth? You want to talk about Kiss? Oh, no, we can have that conversation. We're not having no Fab conversation. You understand? Method Man just showed his ass on this Rome Streets. The way he showed his ass on Lemon, Mike. This is the author of Bring the Pain. What the fuck Fab got for I'll Be There For You or How High or Bring the Pain? You feel what I'm saying?
If you ask me what...
him like this, when you're talking about him like this, when a guy like Method Man is literally made the records that he's made, that man did the Hook, the Ice Cream, and Cream. He is still out here out rapping niggas, and y'all talking about Fab better than Conway? Like, if you want to say Method Man's better than Conway and more versatile, you have some evidence. Not Fab. Meth is oh, you want to say Method Man's more versatile than Conway? Well, fuck yeah. But do not feed me Fab as a New York rapper that's more versatile than Conway. No. Where the records at, Mike? You make me better, I'll be there for you. How high? Holla back. Lemon? What the fuck the last shit that what's the last shit that Fab even blazed in the streets like Lemon? When the last time he jumped on a track like Lemon and blazed?
Has he worked with Griselda yet?
Mike, you want to know why he hasn't? Because it can be very problematic when you stepping in there with Benny and Conway. Them niggas know how to spit. Be very problematic for your legacy if you're not rapping. Like, Conway destroyed Lemon. That's why Meth rapping the way he rapping.
Somebody in the chat said Method Man is super overrated. How so?
Slap.
That I've never heard. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how how is Method Man overrated? Slap. How so?
All I'm saying is, ain't no Fab talk. Like, Conway better than Fab, fam. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't hate to be one to break it to you. Like, From a King to a God is better than anything Fab ever did album-wise. I'm sorry.
Whoever said that probably...
Ain't got no Juvenile Hell on no Fab album. Where Fab Jesus Christ is at? On record, on an album. Where his Jesus Christ is at, Mike?
Mad Max of the Super Chat says, Soul Tapes Soul Tapes ripped to the competition. Fab is a mixtape legend. He said, oh yeah, Soul Tapes, RIP to the competition. Fab is a mixtape legend.
If you ask Fab for a verse...
Cuffing season, Fab went off. He did go off on cuffing season. Listen,
Fab nice. Fab be going off. Fab not better than Conway. I'm sorry. I hate to be the one to break it to like the people in the city. Hate to be the one to break it to the people in the city.
I'm still stuck on this. Method Man is overrated. Oh, it said underrated.
Okay, there we go. They smoking crack, Mike.
No, that's not the same person that said that. Listen, whoever said that though, you must think that Eminem's a better rapper than Method Man, huh? You know, it's funny, man. Everybody kept sending me the Melly Mel thing or whatever. And shout out to Melly Mel, legendary MC. One of the greatest ever, the first greatest MC we had, him and Cass, right?
It's Melly.
And the fact that yeah, I agree. And the fact that Melly Mel went out here and said that Eminem's only top five because he's white. I mean, I'm glad it rings true for people when a legend says it. But hey,
I mean,
whatever.
Mike, we've already said Kanye's name in this episode, so I figure we just take the rest of our viewership money. Go ahead and say Eminem a couple times. Take the rest of the money away.
You know, I just can't mention the color of his skin. I'll just say Eminem. But yeah, I mean, it's he brought up Royce, and I think he made some pretty fair points.
No, I thought that was problematic.
I think that
I thought that was problematic how he brought up Royce, but whatever.
Royce wasn't in the top 50. Why? Royce put in work. You know what I mean? Like,
Lupe ain't make the top 50 either.
yeah, but he's not joining at the hip with somebody who's in the top five either, and trading bars with somebody who's in that top five, and everybody knows him. And everybody knows that. Do you think Eminem's that much better than Royce as an MC? Like, real
I think
question.
Royce is actually a better overall MC because of what he brings to the table, subject matter and content wise, with stuff like the allegory. But that's neither here nor there.
Okay.
Because Lupe waxed that ass, and we haven't heard an album since. So that really needs to be. And I personally came on here and told everybody live that Lupe didn't want to do that with Royce, and then Royce made me look real bad, but he made himself look worse. So,
and I want to note that I took the other side. I was like,
no. You told me that I was tripping. I very vividly, like, Coop, you were like, Coop, you sure? I'm like, yeah, nigga, I'm sure everything's okay over here. I got Royce.
I was like, nah, man. I had some insight.
You're like, you don't want to do that. I think that's probably why Lupe don't like me. That's the shit that he heard. Damn, all the Twitter stuff. He probably heard me say that. He was like, oh, you picked that nigga over me.
Yeah.
Fuck that nigga too. Right. No. I be like that too, Mike, because like I'm still an MC at heart. I'm competitive. Like if I hear somebody say something even sounds like our shit, I'd be like, man, fuck that nigga.
LP said, Coop's like the cow. Mike's like talking about milk and white people. Eminem. No. People wanted me to address this Melly Mel thing. I don't know what else to say. I mean, Melly Mel.
I don't know what else to say about what happened to Royce. So ain't gonna be no top 50 when you just no.
Well, I mean, and somebody's bringing up the fact that Mickey Fax cooked them too. Yeah, but and I remember somebody in the comment section was like, "Well, why did y'all bring Eminem in it? Like he was supposed to defend Royce."
That was you, Mike.
No, I said that,
you
but
did insert,
I did insert him in there. But you know why? Because anytime, who defends Eminem at any given point first? Like anytime anybody says anything about Eminem, Royce is first to jump up and defend Eminem. Is he not? Can he not get that same?
Listen to me. That's like, it's different when your man in the hood puts you on. All right? Listen to what I'm saying. So, like, check this out, Mike. Remember when I was in Madison Square Garden and I did, like, this little thing. I was talking about all the love I was getting and how I didn't appreciate how I wasn't getting love back home. The nigga who taught me how to rhyme, nigga Adriel. He from the west side of Charlotte. Adriel and his group, the Queen City Kings, they were the first niggas from the west side of Charlotte. They had a distribution deal with Def Jam. He sent me a message. He was like, Coop, I love you, brother. It's like, oh, that's all I needed to hear. You feel what I'm saying? It's like sometimes you just need to hear it from like, yo, nigga, like that nigga. It's like, oh no, the nigga that taught me how to rhyme was like, no, Coop, I see you, I love you. That's like, so when Adriel or my man Tizai, they from my block, they taught me how to rhyme. When they say it, it's different. So it's like, if a nigga ever says anything about them, we have a motherfucking problem out here. You understand what I'm saying?
But
like,
I'm
if
sure
anybody says anything about the guys that put me on, we have a problem. That's how we roll.
But
just
I'm
the same
sure.
Way, no. Listen to what I'm saying, because it works in reverse. Just the same way it's like, oh, well, I was looking for love. Oh, well, the first person that pulled me up was the nigga that showed me how to rap. Nigga Adriel's in my comments like, nah, nigga, I love you. You get what I'm saying? And so that's the way Royce rides. That's how you ride when you're from the hood. Now, why Eminem's not riding back? Oh, I don't know. But that's how it's supposed to go. Yeah.
And that's the part I don't understand. Like, you know, like I said, I get everything you're saying. But if you know somebody's riding for you like that, even if that's not really in you like that, you see somebody getting beat up that's always jumping to defend you.
No.
You don't jump out.
Listen, Mike. Sometimes Niggas gotta remind you. I didn't even know the nigga Adriel was even watching the show like that until he told me that he loved me. You feel what I'm saying? Like that's my nigga, my nigga. Like how about this? That's the nigga that put me on the It Was Written and Reasonable Doubt. I didn't have no money. Adriel did. Adriel's the one that used to let me listen to his CD when he was done. He's the one that was telling me, it's like, oh no, nigga, you gotta put these shit in the bars. Like nigga, Adriel was rapping in 16 bars before the rest of the hood even knew what bars was. Like that's how Royce looks at M. And so sometimes it's like the OG just gotta call you back out and let you know that he's there. Sometimes that happens behind the scene. Like the nigga sent me a message behind the scene. He's like, no, fuck that, I love you. It's like, oh, okay, that's different. My nigga still, my nigga that taught me how to rhyme, he got me. I'm good. I'm not paying attention to the rest of these niggas. So there might have been some behind the scene, Mike.
So you think M is Royce's OG?
To a lot of ways, the same way Adriel and like Tizai is my OG. Like nigga, Tizai went through some things and we had a conversation. It's like, oh no, as long as I'm here, you here. Like it's whatever. So that's that behind the scenes stuff. It's like I be telling you, it's like when I'm repping according to hip hop, it's like, well, I'm not just repping according to hip hop. It's like, no, I'm repping like West Boulevard, Beatty's Ford Road, Tuckasegee, my cousin Mario, my cousin Mark, Adriel, Tizai, Tremaine. No. The niggas that like indulged all my shit, the twins, boo boo. No. It's like the whole hood with me. And so it's like some people take that mentality with them and some people don't. Yeah. And it's like, so what you're seeing from Royce is just a mentality that you love to see from a guy taking it with you. I'm not going to fault him for that. I do the same thing.
I don't fault him for that.
Every day when I pull up here, does it need to be reciprocated, Mike? Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Like Adriel pulling up in my comments while I was in Madison Square Garden, that meant everything to me. He's from Tuckasegee. That's West Side Charlotte. So when a nigga take time, like, yeah, it means something. So M should, yeah.
Yeah. Mad Max in the super chat says, and I wasn't even saying that Fab is Hov. I'm saying that we view Fab like our Hov type of guy who used to be in touch with current events. Oh, okay, I got you. From a punchline standpoint. Computer Blue with the super chat says, if Eminem was black, he would be Hobson. That's accurate, man. Or I don't even want to put names out there. I'm just reading the super chats. But again, needless to say,
we're already getting flagged losing money.
I think Melly Mel
losing money for talking about Eminem and Kanye in the same episode.
Right. I think Melly Mel made some good points, and I think that if we're going to lean on the fact that anytime anybody refutes where he should be placed, and we're always going to lean to the legends that have co-signed him, well, we need to also document these things as well. That's all I'm saying. Because he's a legend of legends.
How about this? And this is something for the camp to think about, too, is it like, since we're having this talk and Nas was just in the garden, it's very, very clear to me, Mike, why It Was Written got made. Because the notoriety at some point needs to match the talent. Shay is nice, Mike.
She is.
She is nice. I
don't
hear
understand,
her rap,
man.
I don't hear a woman rapping. I hear a great MC. I want her catalog and her career to reflect that.
I agree with you.
And if she got to lose some core, hardcore hip hop fans to ascend, well then so be it. Because she's nice, and I don't want to be arguing in 10 years. Be like, yo, I used to do according to hip hop. I used to talk about this artist Shay Noir. Now that motherfucker's nice one. They'd be like, where her No Time at, or her Lost Ones? I'd be like, damn, you sound like me in fucking 2022. Never mind.
I think that, and I hate using the term potential like she's not already there. She has the hunger. I hear it, man. I hear the versatility. She has a story. She really puts me in the mind of Beanie Siegel in that way. Like, you feel the shit. Scarface, she's one of those.
But this is what I mean. She fluid enough, Mike, that it's like, no.
Yeah.
Let her go work with somebody like a Timbaland, a Neptunes. Really? Yes.
You think so? I think the era
nice. When you're nice, you're nice. Do you remember when Beanie Siegel did In the Club, Mike?
I do.
That's what I'm talking about. No, she can do that, Mike.
I'm going to say this, and I say this respectfully. I think the era of people getting Timbaland and Neptune beats is over, but I do think that Murder Beats, I think that Metro, You know what I'm saying? Guys like that. I think that
First of all, you can still
Hit
get a
Boy.
Pharrell beat. You can still get a Pharrell beat.
When's
That's
the
not
last
true.
Pharrell beat that worked?
All over Pusha T's album.
Well,
Brambleton,
you know,
Let the
that's
Smokers
different.
Shine the
I'm
Creek.
talking about for an artist that doesn't have a long history with them. But you're right though. But I'm talking about for somebody who's never worked with them like that.
Well, I mean, I'm not even stressing the producer as much as I'm stressing the sound and how talented the artist is to let it reflect that. And so I'm going to go back to It Was Written again. It's like, that album is all street except for Street Dreams and If I Ruled the World. The rest of the album is street, right? I Gave You
Pretty
Power.
much.
Watch Them Niggas. Listen to the titles, Mike. Silent Murder. Watch Them Niggas. Take It in Blood. The Set Out. Shootouts. Suspect. Live nigga rap. Does it sound like some happy shit going on or some rap shit going on?
That's
But
some
they
rap
gave
shit
him
going on.
room. They gave him room to expand. And all I'm saying is that, like, now I understand the room to expand and why these artists are doing it. Because it's like, if not, you're going to get pigeonholed into a career where they like, well, you never sold no records.
Well, you know
You
who's
never
the
made
perfect
songs.
median?
You never did this. You never did that. And it's like, well, you're capable of it.
Well, you know who the perfect median is in today's time that I think that would be great for her to work with. If you want to mention the Pharrells, I think Tyler the Creator could do a great job of putting together a project for her.
Yes.
Now that would sound fresh, musical, new, raw, all of those things.
Yes.
Somebody like that.
Like, I mean, how about this?
And it would give her some stuff that would be commercially viable that she would sound natural.
Well, how about this? Look at Conway's approach From a King to a God. It's like, no, you got a little bit of everybody on there.
Now, you're right. I think
Hit Boy's on there. Havoc's on there.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? It's
If
like,
you wanna look
like,
at-
get out of that little chamber.
if she has a blueprint, I think that a blueprint for her would definitely be From a King to a God. She could pull that record off.
Yes, she can.
She could pull that off.
She very much can.
Yeah. No, definitely.
I believe in her.
Yeah,
and I'm
I
not
believe
saying
in her
she's the
too.
best female MC walking necessarily. I know we got Sims, we got Cyrock.
It's something about her.
We
though.
love here.
Yeah.
We think Armani's the biggest star of the whole lot of them bubbling. We respect Lotto and what she's doing. Ice Spice Glorilla been blowing up. No. I respect the game. But when I hear Shay, I hear some of what you hear. I hear some of that Beanie.
Exactly.
Like some of that, like, here's what I'm saying, Mike. Is
that
that
filler music. Like, I was surprised
Mike,
that she wasn't from Philly. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mike, here's what I'm about to say. Is that, well, if she can consistently make even Feeling in the Air, that'll be. You know what I'm saying?
No, I agree.
I thought Feeling in the Air. I remember Feeling in the Air came out January of the year that it came out. When that song came out, I said, this is the bar and the standard that all the other rap songs need to be judged by this year.
That's a special
That song's
record.
perfect.
Special record. And I think that, and that's high praise for me. Like, I think that she gives me what, Beanie Siegel, the Scarfaces, like, that music, that spitting that you could actually feel. Like, you feel those bars. And I can't think of a female MC or many MCs, period, that you could put in that chamber. And for her to have that ability, I think that's something to really double down on. Let me, well, shoot, I guess we pretty much covered everything, right?
Unless you got something else for me.
Yeah, I think we covered everything. Let me get to the rest of these super chats. LP says, that's what happens when you listen to fans. We could have a whole show on that. We could have a whole show on, but see,
Well, this is what I'm saying.
that's the thing though. We're in a space right now with the internet and social media where the artists have nothing, they have no choice but to listen to their fans. That's who they sell their merch to. That's who are coming to the shows. Who else are they supposed to listen to, right? I guess it's on the fans to let the artists know, like, yo, it's time to change it up and be cool with it.
I mean, see, this is what I'm saying about how, like, you do understand that Griselda got a Shady deal and a Rock Nation deal, and it wasn't by making popular music. It's because they made street music. This is a transitional time. Like, the streets got them to this point. So they obviously did something that was worthwhile and viable. Now, here's what I would tell you. You know what I think the whole camp really, really needs, Mike, and we can leave it on this? I think this camp specifically needs to center around Stove Purple Tape style and really make something special. Because just for me,
Not Benny?
How about this? Bar wise, Mike, I do not think he's the best one in the crew. Do I think he is the best and the brightest of the whole flock, though? It's like I think he's the best hook writer. I think he's the most entertaining. I think he has the most infectious delivery. I think he has the most, not best, but most interesting voice. I think that camp would serve themselves very well by getting behind him Purple Tape style, as in we're making Stove's album, but everybody going to get off in the chamber. That means Rome needs to be there. Love, like all of them, Ransom, like 38. It's like, no. Because he's the guy.
You think he's the Ray of the crew?
Three, he's the key to their growth to what's next to me. That's why I've been saying he's a star. It's like, no. What he does next, if they can center around that and pull that off properly, that's the look for them. Because this is what I'm saying. He's charismatic enough, but still street enough that he's the guy in that camp that can give you that glaciers of ice and ice cream. He's that guy. And you center around that guy for your next movement. And so what I would like to see is his album this year, executive produced by West Side Gun, but all hands on deck. Like I expect to hear an 18-track album. I expect to hear Benny, Boldy, Conway, Che, Love, Armani, 38, Rome, Skis. But I expect to hear them the right way, the same way we heard Wu-Tang the right way on the Purple Tape. You feel what I'm saying?
You're right. I think that's a great plan. What do you think is next for, what are your expectations for Benny and Hit Boy's project?
According to Hit Boy, they got some things cooking.
I mean, I heard one of the joints. It's crazy.
Hit me back on Twitter.
Yeah.
Shout out to Hit. No, I'm excited. You know, I don't know. I'm pretty certain Benny and all them watched the show. I say this, you know, and it's kind of funny because of the person who's on the song with him, Mike. But in hindsight, Mike, remember when you were like, one-way flight is the highlight, a burden of proof?
Mm-hmm.
You were right, and more of that.
Yeah.
More of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, more of that.
Burden of proof was after KD won, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
When KD won, then it went burden of proof.
Okay.
And then KD2 came out like 3 months. I don't know.
Well, you know what? I'm expecting this is going to be some great production on this new Benny album because I think that from what, I mean, I think KD1's dope. But what Hit Boy did on KD2, Magic, and KD3, he stepped it all the way up. And for him to be going to Benny now, after what he just did on KD3, yeah, I think we're going to see a stark difference in, you know, what Burden of Proof was and what this album is going to be from a production standpoint. And I do think production is a driving force, and I think that we're going to hear a more intense Benny, too. And I think we're going to hear some stuff that we can bang to. You know what I mean?
So, I mean, I can't stress this enough. So let's kind of end it like this. Well, Mike, you know what made me want to find out who the glove was, Mike?
Was
Phone Tap.
Yeah.
Phone Tap's a banger, Mike. Like, that beat bang, Mike. I was like, who this nigga? I'm like, Chris the Glove Taylor, Mike. Since 1997, I've been trying to figure out who the fuck Chris the Glove Taylor. I was like, who did Phone Tap? It says Chris the Glove Taylor. I was like, who the fuck is that? Who the fuck is that? Because that beat, you see what I'm saying? And so sometimes I'm not even saying go to a specific producer. It's like, no, go create that feeling. Hit Boy has proven that he is great about providing a feeling to New York artists. Have you heard 30?
Yeah.
Can I introduce you to maybe Spicy?
Yeah.
Or 27 Summers? Or Blue Benz? Or Brunch on Sunday? You get what I'm saying? No. He's shown producer-wise, there's plenty of places you can go as an MC. Are you going to go there?
Okay, before we close out of here.
Phone Tap ain't cool, Leroy. Damn you, it's one of the best beats ever.
Of KD3. And we can throw Magic in there.
Eminem love Phone Tap, Mike.
What are three what are three beats that Hit Boy did from those projects that you could hear Benny on?
From KD3?
And you can throw Magic in there too if you want to.
No, we're leaving Magic out of it.
We'll leave Magic out? Okay.
KD3?
Mm-hmm.
Fun. Yeah, Fun. Reminisce.
I thought about
that. Benny can rap over Reminisce.
Reminisce would be a hit for him, I think.
Reminisce would be big for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, like imagine him getting that Mary sample for
Yeah.
his first single,
Yeah.
like with some of his block talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, Reminisce and Thun come to mind immediately. Let me run down the track list in my mind.
You think you could pull off legit?
I was thinking about legit sneaky hard though, Mike.
Yeah.
Legit's one of those beats that it's like, oh, you love rapping to it, so you have to rap to it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Right. I could see I'm on fire maybe.
Okay. I can see that.
Because he's got that choppy, aggressive flow, so I could see him weave it a little differently than Nas.
No, I like it.
Yeah. So Reminisce, I'm on fire and Thun, which by the way all rang out in the garden rather nicely.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this Hit Boy and Benny project. I think that we're about to get an album of the year contender. Double E TV Media with the super chat says M granted Slaughterhouse their release when the group was under contract. M always hold Royce down.
That's what I'm saying. So Mike, that's what I was saying when I was talking behind the scenes and telling you it's like, well, M does a lot of things. Like, look at his team. That's what I'm saying. It's just like, no, like,
no, of course he does. I just want him to get
straight.
I just want him to get on wax and go head up with a credible MC. That's just me.
No, and I get it, Mike, and there's nothing wrong with that. But here, you want to know what? Jay changed things so much for all the ancillary things that MCs do to make themselves viable. And so we can't change the ancillary things that M does too, just because he doesn't do some of the core things that we like. No, he does a lot of those ancillary things. I told you. You know, Shade 45 is bigger than anything Jay's ever done for artists. Just,
Bigger than Tidal?
Fuck yeah.
I disagree with that.
Mike, no. Tidal ain't broke nobody. He just broke off a check for Rihanna and Beyonce and Jay and whoever was big enough at the time to be involved. You got to be at a certain level to get down with Tidal. You just got to be nice to get on Shade 45, Mike. Big difference.
Huh. I guess I never really looked at it like that. But
you gotta jump through hoops to get Jay's love, to get M love. You just need to be nice. There's something to be said for that.
And that's what Shade 45 is. Like, it's no payola. You just jump on there, you nice, and you get on.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine the brick talk on Thun, Mike, if Benny did Thun?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it, man. All right, well, shoot. I guess that's pretty much it, man. Like, what are we doing with the Monday matchup before we get out of here?
No, Mike. You done talked some of this.
Yeah, I want It Takes a Nation. I'm picking 9 songs, and we're going.
If that's what you want to do, that's fine.
That's what I want to do.
No. I think that's, Mike, first of all, taking 9 songs from It's a Nation, that's your best bet. But here's what
should I take Only Built for Cuban Links?
Right, Mike. That's what I want, because I know we only got a month left, Mike. Now, Illmatic is my number 1, but Only Built for Cuban Links and Aquemini are my number 2 and 3. And I've always been fascinated about how they pair up. So I'm cool with doing the It Takes a Nation 9 best songs versus Illmatic, but I want Purple Tape versus Aquemini.
Okay, we can do that.
On a personal level, I want Purple, because I think song-wise it matches up pretty close. I might have to cut Heaven and Hell and Wu Gambino's.
You know, I hate to say this as a big Aquemini proponent. That's gonna be a tough hill to climb.
I mean, Mike, you just gave reference to Aquemini being better than Illmatic, though. So you're gonna have to sit on that.
I think Purple Tape could be possibly the greatest hip hop album ever, too. I mean, like I said, I think there's 5 or 6 albums that are in that conversation.
So here's what I tell you. So Illmatic is my number 1 based on degree of difficulty. But if we're talking about how an album sounds, if you were to tell me that, well, the Purple Tape, Aquemini, and Doggy Style sound better than Illmatic, I would tell you, okay, degree of difficulty still puts Illmatic at number 1. But those 3 albums specifically, and Paid in Full, come to mind immediately. And It Takes a Nation, of course.
I wish Paid in Full had enough songs. I would love to go ahead up.
No, Mike. You can still do that. I'll cut songs off Illmatic if you want to do Paid in Full, Mike.
Really? Hold on.
Yes.
You do understand that Paid in Full contains I Ain't No Joke, My Melody, I Know You Got Soul, Move the Crowd, Paid in Full, as the rhyme goes on, and Eric B is president.
Mike, if you want to catch some of this smoke, we can do Paid in Full versus Illmatic.
I just don't have enough songs. That's the problem.
Like I told you, I'll cut it down to 7. Matter of fact, Mike, if you want, we can cut it down to 7. And then we can do the Purple Tape Aquemini thing. We can do it all in one episode. We can get the Rakim Nas thing out the way with Paid in Full Illmatic, and then we can do the Purple Tape Aquemini thing, and we might be able to fit it in one episode.
Okay. So you really want to... Okay, so you're cutting one time for your mind, right?
You're damn right.
And you're probably cutting half time.
Mike, you're so intelligent.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I'm cool with that. Okay, we got 7 songs.
Fine.
I just need 4 wins.
No, this is how it's supposed to be. It's like, because how about this? It's like on my list, it's like, well, Illmatic is number 1, but Paid in Full is like 4, 5, or 6. It's like, no, it's totally viable.
Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can get 4 wins out of this. You know what it's going to come down to?
Probably the record that we would just versus Paid in Full.
I don't think so. I think it's going to come down to what you and I were talking about. Life's a Bee and My Melody.
I told you, Mike.
That's what it's going to come down to.
It is. Yeah, I'm cool with that, Mike.
I'm cool with that, too. I like my chances.
So we got a little Paid in Full Illmatic and a little Purple Tape Aquemini. I'm like, that's 4 of my top 5. We just need some doggy style action.
Right. Doggy style, I don't think we got any access to that.
No, nobody wants that. Mike, all jokes aside, as much as I love Illmatic, don't nobody want to go head to head with doggy style though, Mike. Just for banger effect. For banger effect, don't do that to any album.
Yeah, it's insane.
Like, how about this, Mike? I love some Life's a Bitch. Like, like that would go up against Gin and Juice, right?
You're not gonna win that.
Not winning that, Mike.
Yeah,
Memory Lane would go. Mike, Memory Lane would be up against Murder Was the Case. Halftime would be up against the Shiznit.
Yeah, doggy style's a different beast.
Doggy style's a problem for everybody in the streets, Mike.
All right, everybody enjoy their weekend. Great show. Love when we have to talk about when we have new music to talk about. Like and subscribe. Hit the subscribe button again. If you're listening to us on any other platforms, hit that bell icon so you know when we're going live. Any other closing thoughts, Coop, before we get out?
No. Like and subscribe to our page. We're gonna be out in the streets more this year. Subscribe to my backup podcast, Mirror Music. My channel, Coop is Problematic, is coming with content soon. I've been working through and nuancing some things. I finally got some stuff that may bubble. I'm gonna be like offering something different to the table, and like look at it like a little According to Hip Hop After Dark featuring Coop coming soon. But
nice.
Yeah, subscribe and like all the pages. Peace, everybody.
Peace, everybody.
Yep.